Drivers getting ready to roll at Bristol Motor Speedway. The first half-track, short-track race of the season, a half-mile, I should say, with Martinsville coming up. Carl Edwards saying everything's okay between Brad Keselowski and himself. And the veteran, Mark Martin, the honorary starter for today's race, grew up around here as a big NASCAR fan. That's Cowboys tight end Jason Witten. Saw Joe Gibbs from Joe Gibbs Racing, former Redskin coach, who Gibbs going into the Texas Motorsports Hall of Fame. So the NFL loves NASCAR, as Jeff Hammond and I do from the Hollywood Hotel. And Jeff, what's on your Verizon checklist as we get ready to roll here?
Well, when it comes to Bristol, you always have things a little bit unique. First thing you got to do, you got to get up on the wheel. Right at the drop of the green flag, you got to get up there and make it happen. Secondly, you need to anticipate. You need to anticipate what's going on in front of you as well as what's happening to your race car. And last but not least, you need to control your emotions. Don't worry about what's going on around you. Make sure you keep control of your emotions in your race car.
And we've already seen a couple of weeks ago how that can change the outcome of a race.
Chris, now, in other words, when it comes to Bristol,
yeah.
You know what that means?
Be cool.
Watch out!
And there's less room to watch out. What do we lose? About 3 feet. The safer barriers on the walls, that's nice, but it narrows things. Some drivers have said that's a bigger issue than others.
Well, it's that when you want to exit the corner, you wanted an extra foot and a half that's not there anymore. So it's going to create a problem, I think, when we get to racing today. You take a look right about where the sweeper truck is, how much is extended almost down to the start-finish line, and that's going to be an issue before the day.
All right, so Juan Pablo Montoya said it doesn't affect where I run on the track. What about some drivers that did? I know we saw what Kurt Busch spun in practice.
I think it's going to start at the bottom. The groove's going to be at the bottom early, and it's going to go to the top before the end of the day.
Jimmy Johnson, all that he's won, he has yet to win here. So let's head back down trackside for the words we like to hear to get things rolling.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the words we've all been waiting to hear, Boot City 500 Grand Marshal Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Drivers wanted all of us to send our best wishes to the president and GM of this track, Jeff Bird, recovering from an illness. We wish him the best, and we'll get ready to race here in Bristol in just a moment.
It's the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series on Fox, presented by GoDaddy.com. There's hallowed ground, the checkered flag line at Bristol, Tennessee, where 43 drivers are hoping to be in a little more than 3 hours. Hi, everybody, with Darrell Waltrip and Larry McReynolds. I'm Mike Joy. Thunder Valley has been the scene of the 3 R's of racing: wrecking, retaliation, and rivalries. But, Darrell, it is a day long, full of casual contact.
I guess you could say casual contact. Listen, if you think I got a big smile on my face, it's because we're at a place that I love to come to. I love this joint. And you're right, Mike. You're going to have casual contact. You got to know that going in, and you can't let that affect the way you race. Take it and move on. Retaliation, that's a whole nother story.
Well, Darrell's the king of Bristol. He's won here 12 times, including 7 in a row. But, Larry, how do you as crew chief and the spotter help keep 4 fenders on that car?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter what role you play here, whether you're the driver, the crew chief, even the owner. This place will test you to the fullest. It has to be a team effort. The driver has to keep his emotions in check. The crew chief has to help, and more importantly, that spotter. I talked to Clint Boyer this morning, pretty good race car, starting deep in the field. He said, I know somebody's going to drive into the side of me. It may be intentional, it may not, but I have to keep my focus on the big prize, and that's still being on the racetrack when it says 500 laps on the scoreboard.
All right, let's have a look at the starting grid for today's race. Boyer, he's still hot under the collar from last night when his Jayhawks got beat in the last few seconds. Darrell, let's dial up our pole sitter.
Joey Logano, it's a DW. Got a copy there, buddy?
Yeah, man, I got you.
Joey, first of all, congratulations on the pole, and what an incredible turnaround from the first 2 times you've been here. What are your goals today, there, bud?
Keep this thing alive and try to finish it. That's been my biggest problem here at Bristol. I've always had fast race cars, but had a hard time finishing these things. So number 1 priority is getting the lap 500 there, and hopefully around here towards the front still, and hopefully bring up a W here. That'd be pretty cool. Either way, it's pretty neat to start here on the pole, and sure the guys have good pit stops, keeps up there, got a good starting position, good pit position there, so hopefully we can hang in here.
All right, my friend, good luck to you. Sorry about yesterday, but good luck on today. Bring her home.
Thanks.
Joey was running 5th yesterday on the last lap when Kevin Harvick turned Joey around. He ended up 14th, but today he shares the front row with 5-time Bristol winner Kurt Busch. This race is brought to you by Budweiser, the beer that starts with full flavor and ends with a crisp, clean finish. Budweiser, it's what we do. Larry, how about our FedEx understanding the race today?
These are the trends or the patterns we'll look at for these crew chiefs to try to call this race. The last 9 spring races here. The longest green flag run, roughly 101 laps. A fuel run here is about 140 to 150. Last caution, average lap 472, but the last 3 races, that last caution in the last 10 laps, remember, 3 attempts at the green, white, checkered. Cars running at the finish, average 36 cars, a lot of cars repaired, back on the track to get valuable Sprint Cup Series points.
I guarantee you, if we get to the green, white, checkered, they'll wish they had about 1 because it's going to take more than 3 to settle it.
Instead of the wave around, it's going to be a call to roll back in the wreck or bring them around. 61 degrees, and it struggled to get there. About an hour and a half ago, the cold front came through and everybody went running for their sweaters and jackets. We expect rain somewhere perhaps around 4 o'clock this afternoon, but we may have to check in with Rick Dickert, our storm scout, because that weather system appears to be advancing faster than we've expected.
We don't need but about 3 hours. We get 3 hours, we'll get this baby in.
If the boys will behave, we can get there. Yeah, right.
Today's race, this is the first time this season that we have run 500 laps. We'll do it again next week at Martinsville, Virginia. 30 miles an hour on pit road. There's the pit window, as Larry pointed out, and Terry Cook was late to the drivers meeting, and that will earn you a spot at the back of the field.
And the 66 car who qualified 3rd made a good decision right here, and he's dropping to the rear.
Yeah, but I think the reason you see blank quarter panels for Prism Motorsports, and I think they're only going to run as long as the money will allow them, which probably won't be long.
Joey Logano is going to try to win from the pole. That has not happened at Bristol since Rusty Wallace did it in the spring race 1999, the last time a spring race was run from the pole. Here we go.
Quickly, pull the belts tight. Hurry, hurry, hurry.
Biggity, biggity, biggity. Oh, baby, let's go racing, boys.
Kurt Busch fires out, and does he lead the first lap? He does, from Logano.
You know, I thought Logano had fallen asleep, but man, he came off turn 2 and drove right up along the side of Kurt Busch in the 2 car, and that 20's working on the bottom right now.
He's getting a good run from the middle off. He's floating that thing down in the corner, and I think Joey Logano, possibly he'll lead lap 2.
Yeah, he got it. Car really, that 20 car really is good on the bottom, and we've seen that to be difficult here with the layout of the track now.
This track has a progressive banking, Darrell, as Busch forges ahead. To lead the 3rd lap is one lane better than another.
But I'm going to tell you what, the best race car in practice is lurking right there behind Kurt Busch. Jimmy Johnson at 48 ran 116 laps in final practice. Everybody was pointing at that car this morning.
Yeah, he led every category. Fastest 5 laps, fastest 10 laps, long runs. Car was awesome, and here he goes. Matter of fact, I heard him tell the boys, y'all can go ahead and get the champagne set up.
Oh, boy. Here comes Johnson around the outside. Busch led the 5th lap of this race. But look at how well you get a drive off that high lane coming off turn 2. And let's see if Johnson can get the 5 bonus points for leading a lap. He does, as we check with Steve.
Well, Mike, as DW says, Jimmy Johnson's got a great race car, but none of his 49 wins have come here at Bristol. Chad Canals said that last night he and Jimmy Johnson spoke for an hour and a half on how to approach this race. Their approach, stay in the top 10 all day.
Well, and there's no question the safest place at this racetrack, this half-mile track, is at the front. But I can guarantee you, if we stay green, we're going to be lapping cars almost before about lap 15 to 18.
One of the things that really hurts you here is you got to be careful when you get in a lot of traffic. The splitter on the front of these cars sticks out just far enough that if you make a little casual contact, you can cut down one of your tires.
For the lead, Busch looking on the low side. And back at 13th place, Denny Hamlin in the 11, Jamie McMurray in the 1, and Mark Martin.
Mark Martin was fairly happy with this 5 car yesterday. He said on qualifying that he got what the car had in it, but to qualify up front, you have to get a little more. Wasn't real happy with that qualifying run on Friday.
I really don't think he's real happy with the car right now, Larry. It looks like it's kicking out a little bit up off the corner.
And as they catch up to the back end of the field, the world's fastest conveyor belt will be sending that vortex into the air and hopefully keep the rain away.
Oh, it will. We're spinning already, baby. The air I'm talking about.
Dick Bergeron.
Well, although Kurt Busch qualified in the 2nd position, they were not happy with the car in race trim. And as a result, this morning, major changes to the car. 3 springs, a shock absorber, and an adjustment to the track bar. So they weren't sure exactly where they were when the green flag dropped, and they're looking forward to the first pit stop to adjust it to make it still faster.
You know, guys, this is a concrete surface, and it's not as susceptible to temperature swings as much as asphalt, but what it is susceptible to, the more these cars run, the more rubber that's going to lay down, and that will change the way these cars drive.
Yeah, I think even though, Larry, it's overcast today, that's still going to help grip a little bit, even though it's concrete.
18th place, Martin Truex battling Dale Earnhardt Jr. Bumper cam shows you just how close things get here at Bristol. They work past the 38 of David Gilliland. Here comes Casey Kane in the 9. And Greg Biffle.
I tell you what, I just saw Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, a couple of guys back here rear of the field. They are desperate. Right now, they are having to really press hard. Watch this move that Harvick puts right here. That's 3 wide off the corner at Bristol. Pretty hard to do.
David Stremme in the 26 is the driver who gave way and allowed them all to get through there safely.
Well, the leader's coming.
Yeah, that's the desperation. You know, they're already within about 4 to 5 seconds of that leader behind them. So Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, and that 18, they know the more cars they can put between them and the leader, the better off they'll be.
And what you hate to hear from the spotter and the crew is, don't let that guy hold you up. Now, that doesn't give you a lot of options.
No. Their task is made a little easier this year with the wave around rule. Makes it easier for a driver to get back on the lead lap should he be lapped, but this early in the race, nobody wants to go a lap down.
And one thing about this track, now that it's configured the way it is, we get a lot of green flag racing here. And so you can go 1 lap down pretty quickly, and guess what? You can go 2 laps down pretty quickly.
Well, lapping has begun. Jimmy Johnson pulls alongside Kevin Conway and puts the rookie contender 1 lap down. Kurt Busch in 2nd. Jeff Gordon, pole sitter Joey Logano, Juan Pablo Montoya, and David Rudiman up front.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing is presented by GoDaddy.com, where you can make the web your domain with a .com name for less than $1 a month. And sponsored by Toyota, moving forward. By Sprint, proud sponsor of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. And by the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot.
We've got 28 green flag laps in Bristol as you watch our aerial coverage brought to you by DirecTV. We're going to fill out our brackets next week for DirecTV head-to-head. You can learn how to win $1 million by going to directv.com/NASCAR.
And it's the real deal. No fantasy racing there. Real money, real players.
Like I said, I like real money. It's just a good thing.
Exactly.
Jimmy Johnson, Kurt Busch, and in 3rd place, a little further back in traffic, is Jeff Gordon. Here's Matt.
And Mike Gordon has a nice little cushion between himself and Busch, just trying to work his way through traffic. They qualified 5th, but he felt like they were missing something in their setup during final practice. A lot of different searching around, a lot of great information that computed together and put together what he thought was going to be a great setup. He hasn't said absolutely anything on the radio, but his lap times mirror that of his teammate, Leader Johnson.
Johnson may not be the leader for long. Kurt Busch has caught him. They split Bobby Labonte. Kind of think better of it.
Well, you know what I've noticed, the 48 cars pretty committed to that high line. 2 cars been pretty committed to the bottom line. When you get in traffic, that's going to work for the 2 better than it is 48, I believe.
Because it looks like the cars they're lapping, like Bobby Labonte in that 71 car, is moving to the high side.
It's just so hard to complete the pass when you get down under this car like Bobby Labonte here. You need a whole racetrack to slide up in front of him right there.
Steve?
Like the update from Jimmy Johnson, he says the car feels like it is on top
I mean, the next thing you'll hear is I feel like I got 4 basketballs on this thing for tires. Once the air pressure builds up, the car goes through a big transition.
Darrell, we talked yesterday on Speed during practice about racing etiquette. Should the slower cars move to the bottom or move up top?
You know, my opinion's always been, I don't really care. Just every time I catch you or every time I'm around you, go the same way. Don't go low one time I catch you and go high the next time. Hold your line.
Jeff Gordon challenging his teammate and 4-time Sprint Cup champion Johnson for second.
But look how quickly the 48 car comfortably leading this race. Out there just pulling away almost. All of a sudden the 2 gets by. Now here comes the 24. And that's how quickly the handle goes away from being a really good car to not being so comfortable.
And you know what this is about when handling issues will start to show up about 40 laps into the run, you know, about a 1/4 of the way through a fuel run.
Everyone in these pit stalls knows we're racing. Oh, car up in the fence in turn 2.
It's the 66 of Blaney. I think he's just trying maybe to get down to pit road. He can't, there's no opening here. Should be able to find one.
3, stay up, stay up, stay up.
No, he can't get down.
No. Caution waves.
Yellow's out.
And you could say that he caused that intentionally, but he had no options.
No.
I mean, he had no choice.
Couldn't get through the conveyor belt.
No, he couldn't break in line.
Yeah, flat tire.
Yeah, he had a long slide up toward the wall in turn number 2. You heard Dave tell his crew it was a flat tire. After qualifying 3rd, great qualifying effort.
Great qualifying effort. They elected to start in the rear, which if you're not going to run the whole race, I think that was a wise decision.
Tell you what, that caution was a huge break for a lot of cars, especially like Kyle Busch, the 18 car, the team that won both races here last year.
Travis Kvapil gets the free pass, the first car 1 lap down.
I think we're deep enough into this run. Pit road will probably be a very busy place.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about that, Larry, because under caution, with the pitting on both sides, everyone must enter the pits at turn 2 under caution and exit the pits at turn 1. It's a long way around at 30 miles an hour.
2 pit roads that NASCAR has made one. Actually, it's a continuation on the apron through 3 and 4. It just kind of equals it out whether you're pitting on the back stretch or the front stretch. There you see a Mike entering at turn 2.
Steve.
And Jimmy Johnson saying that the back of the car is chattering. The back feels extremely loose for Jimmy Johnson.
Kurt Busch happy with his race car. They have made some adjustments in it to get ready for today, and they seem to be working, Matt Yoakum.
And Dick, Jeff Gordon will pit on the very first pit box off turn 4. The one constant, the word slight. It was slightly loose on entry, tight across the center, and just slightly tight. A little free on exit. No changes for the 24, Krista.
The pole sitter, Joey Logano, has slid back to 4th. That's because he's tight in the center, but loose on exit. The exit is where he's losing all of his time.
Looks like Kurt Busch may win this race off pit road race. They're doing 30 miles an hour, but here he goes. It will be Kurt Busch.
We had a conveyor belt on pit road.
Yeah.
There were cars that hadn't stopped yet that were in the way of the cars that had already made their pit stops.
Nobody's saying excuse me either.
43 laps complete of the Food City 500. And looks like everybody's made a stop on pit road.
It looks like the one car that elected to stay out, Jay Guy, Brad Keselowski, and that 12 car started 36. This is sometimes the gamble that a crew chief and a team will take to get that track position. Now, what they need is they need this thing to go for a little while. They don't need to get that far off sequence of those cars that pitted.
Yeah, and the tough thing is they always leave it up to the driver. What do you think? Can you hang on to it?
In front of Keselowski are drivers who will get the wave around. Bobby Labonte and Kevin Conway, but behind Keselowski.
Or just keep me abreast. I mean, it's going to have to hit a little bit, but if I start to make it worse, you just need to let us know so we don't hurt ourselves.
Steve Letarte talking to Jeff Gordon. Behind Keselowski are 3 other drivers who chose not to pit. Michael Waltrip, David Stremme, and Eric Almirola are the leaders. They did not pit.
It sounds like the 24 car might be hitting a splitter. Doesn't want it to hit too hard, doesn't want to hit it too bad and hurt something. So maybe the car on low air could be causing that problem.
Here's what I'm going to anticipate. I think Brad Keselowski, who will start this race on this restart, I think he'll be okay.
I'm a little afraid that the 55 Michael Waltrip, the 26 of Stremme, and the 09 of Almirola, I'm afraid they could be in trouble. In fact, a couple of them are peeling off now to make their stop.
Ford has won at least one race at Bristol in 13 of the last 14 seasons. Roush Fenway leads all active Cup teams with 10 wins. And the last driver to win here from the pole was Carl Edwards in August of 2008. Built Ford tough.
Mike, when they came with the double foul restarts, everybody said, oh man, that outside, when you get to the short tracks, that guy on the outside, he's going to be in trouble. What lane does everybody pick?
Outside.
So Keselowski up front with Stremme in the 26. They did not stop for fuel and tires. Keselowski finished second in yesterday's nationwide race to his teammate at Penske Racing, Justin Allgaier.
You can just see how much better through the middle of the corner that 48 car of Jimmy Johnson is right there through 3 and 4.
Boy, Larry, I just saw the 24. He is bottoming out. Saw a good bit of dust and smoke come out of his car, under his car, when he entered turn 1 down there.
And that'll be magnified after a tire change where the air pressures are way down.
Everybody on fresh tires but the 12 and the 26. And that's going to provide some nervous moments back in the field as they try to work their way past the 26 of Stremme. But everybody looks like they're getting by.
Well, that's one good thing about this track now versus in the past. You can get out of the way.
Michael Waltrip, Eric Almirola have gone to the garage area, joining Dave Blaney and Joe Nemechek. And now Terry Cook comes to pit road.
Now, I've been watching a couple of these cars battle almost since the drop of the green flag. Matt Kenseth, the 17, and Carl Edwards, his teammate in the 99. What's interesting about that, the 17 car was good yesterday. The 99 was not. They mirrored the setup of the 17 car this morning.
I tell you, it fascinates me to think that you can come off a corner at Bristol 3 wide and make it. I mean, that was under 2 wide used to be tippy-toed. 3 wide's no problem.
Martin Truex up on the outside of Kenseth. 9th place at stake here.
You know, interesting thing, Mike, Larry, I drove this track in a pace car. And my feeling was at the middle of the track, not the bottom, not the very top, but the middle was where the most banking felt like it was. Like if you went up a little higher, you almost went over the edge of the banking. Down lower, there wasn't enough. Right through the middle seemed to be the best.
53 laps back, Jimmy Johnson back in command over Jeff Gordon, Kurt Busch, Joey Logano. We're ready for the restart, and a little Thunder Valley crank it up at Bristol with 62 laps complete. Green flag. Caution flag. So Jimmy Johnson reestablishes his position out front. Now Jeff Gordon in second, and back at 6th, David Rudiman up ahead of Tony Stewart.
And I've been watching that 14 car, Tony Stewart. He started back in the 11th position, and that car has been pretty good since the drop of the green flag, but he's been patiently passing cars.
You know, Larry, and we keep saying, you know, this team doesn't seem to be performing maybe as well as it did last year, but I really think they are. They just kind of got a little different routine this year than they had last year. I think we expect him to be up there running in the front and leading the race.
I think you're spot on. Last year at this point, it was not expected. Brand new race team, it was expected with both of those teams making the chase last year.
because he comes in here well up in the top 10 in points, Tony Stewart.
70 laps complete this time by. Krista caught up with Clint Boyer.
Well, first it was his basketball team, now his race car. I know it's been a tough weekend for you overall. A change the spindle. What happened here?
Yeah, it's just been a tough weekend from the get-go. He was a little bit off, but just really proud of these guys. They never gave up. They fixed the car. We were fast. We were marching to the front and passing cars, and just unfortunately the motor blew up. But hey, I want to hats off to all the guys back at ECR shop. They've been working hard and building better horsepower for us, and things happen. We pride ourselves on having no DNFs and things like that, and things happen. They're asking a lot of these engines, and it's amazing they could do what they do. But just feel sorry for BB&T and Cheerios, everybody involved. Thought we was gonna have a good day.
Thanks, Clint.
They came here with a lower gear, which means the engines are going to turn more RPM. And I'm looking at lap times, and they haven't fallen off very much. We're still running around 16 flats, 1580s. That means you're turning that engine about 98, 9900.
The pace is definitely faster than it was in yesterday's practice. Well, remember, it was very hot and sunny yesterday, very cool and overcast today.
Second place, Kurt Busch goes after Jeff Gordon. Tried the bottom of the racetrack and dropped back in line. Here he goes, taking two different grooves. And Busch just not able to gain much.
But you know what? I think you've got to make up your mind. And I believe running the bottom, I know it's tough and it's hard to pass. I'd keep working on my car till I could run the bottom, because that's going to be where you can win this race from.
But Darrell, I think that's also contributing to the pace. In practice yesterday, there wasn't enough rubber to run the top, so the guys they had to run the bottom of the track for the most part.
Yeah, it's almost all the way up to the top now. Got a good black skim of rubber on the track.
Now, these two keep discussing second place. David Rudiman is going to reel them in. Rudiman has driven away from that Montoya, Logano, Stewart, and Biffle battle behind him.
What's amazing with those two guys battling for second, of course, they have more wins than any of our active drivers at 5 apiece, Jeff Gordon and Kurt Busch. And I look up there at Jimmy Johnson leading the race. Jimmy has 16 starts here. He's never won here. And he said he tried for about 3 or 4 years to come here with Jeff Gordon's setup. Why not? Man's won here 5 times. Finally, a year ago, they decided that was not working for Jimmy Johnson's style. They went a totally different direction last year.
And the other thing that I heard him say, Larry, was that this track didn't fit his rhythm. That he couldn't find the rhythm at this racetrack. And that, as a driver, I know exactly what he means. And I just can't figure out how to drive in, where to get the gas, where to get the brake. Drive in too hard, don't get in the gas quick enough. It just hadn't figured that out. But today looks pretty figured out right now.
Mark Martin in the 5 makes the pass on Brad Keselowski. But Matt, I'm impressed with how well Keselowski is doing on the tires with which he started the race.
Different pit cycle, Mike, and you're just exactly like Brad Keselowski. He's impressed with how well that car has drive off right now on those older tires. Yes, they're a different pit cycle, hoping that it all cycles out so they're back up front, but that track position really has paid off.
You know what else I think's paid off, Larry? You see what's on the hood of that car? How many of those are out there?
Basically, Penske is Dodge, Dodge is Penske.
Yesterday, Penske's cars 1 and 2, Dodges. Today, I mean, if you don't have anybody to compare to, engine-wise, car-wise, or anything else, you're almost on an island by yourself. Sometimes that's bad.
Sometimes it's good.
Hey, boys, we're going short track racing again next week. Look at there, Martinsville.
Play Earl's paperclip.
My second favorite track.
Mike and Darrell, this car I've been watching closely since the drop of the green flag. Greg Biffle in that 16. Now, Keselowski is our biggest mover since the drop of the green, but it was through strategy. But this race car here, Greg Biffle, he started 25th, Steve. He's about to crack the top 5.
He sure is, Larry. He says the car is really good and he can run to the bottom of the racetrack. These cooler temperatures, overcast skies are helping him a great deal.
Well, Darrell, you said it in the pre-race. You feel like that he's the closest of our guys that's not won in a long time to get to victory lane. But look at this wad here.
None of these guys are going to win if they keep racing like that. Holy smoly. 20's got a problem, it looks like. Krista.
Yeah, remember, he was too loose at the start of this this race, they tightened him up, and they went too far. Joey falling off the pace, complaining of a very tight race car.
You can pretty much see it right there. He can't get in the throttle and stay. And look at David Rudeman. He's all over this 24 car of Gordon now for third.
I'll tell you, Rudeman and even Marcos Ambrose, you know, they both had incredible runs here. Joey just got a punt there down the front straightaway by that green car. I think, is that Carl?
Carl Edwards, yeah. Joey cannot get out of the way.
No, he's kind of a moving chicane, and here comes everybody. Not his fault. They went too far on the adjustment.
This is when it gets ugly.
And he's going to need a he's going to need a caution and hope not to be a caution.
And you know, it's one of the biggest fears, I think, of a team, especially a crew chief, is if you're a little bit off on that first run when you take the green flag and the track kind of is green, is jumping the fence with your adjustment, panicking with the adjustment.
Rudeman and Gordon for third.
It's just amazing to me how quickly running pretty good, and all of a sudden you can't drive it.
That's what's happened to our pole sitter Logano as David Rudeman takes third from Jeff Gordon. Closing in on 100 of 500 laps at Bristol. You're watching NASCAR on Fox, presented by GoDaddy.com.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox, presented by GoDaddy.com, is sponsored by Budweiser, the beer that starts with full flavor and ends with a crisp, clean finish. Budweiser, it's what we do.
Stevie Waldrop, Jeff Hammond, and Darrell, one of his 12 victories at Bristol, driving for the legend Junior Johnson, and rolling into victory lane in Thunder Valley.
Watch this, Mike. Stevie's saying, do you know where you are?
Are you dizzy?
Well, and that question might well have been asked of Joey Logano just a minute ago. Fourth place here, Jeff Gordon, Greg Biffle fighting for fourth. Biffle's going to use Robbie Gordon's number 7 as a pick to take the spot. And here's Logano back on track after losing 3 laps with his green flag pit stop.
We had he had issues. We knew that. And here I think he's got a tire down here, I'm pretty sure. And then gets clipped
by Robbie Gordon trying to get the pit road.
Got to get in, And
that's a commitment cone violation right there.
Oh, by the way, that's a commitment cone.
Oh, by the way, we're under green, and he's pitted on the front stretch, not the back.
Yeah.
And that's the one difference, green versus caution, is under green, you pit, you enter and exit on your side. You don't treat it as one put road from turn 2 to turn 1.
And if it makes him feel any better, and it won't, Jeff Gordon's done that. Mark Martin's done that. As a matter of fact, Mark Martin pulled in before the race was over here a few years ago. So this place, it does scramble your brain.
And the spotter said, I tried to tell you, but you were talking on the radio at the time. So only one person can talk at a time on that kind of system and be able to hear. So
this was about 10 or 12 laps ago. Kurt Busch in lap traffic gets by the 48 car, takes the lead away, uses Robbie Gordon as a pick. I just think the 48 car right now is not good on the long run, and this has been a fairly long run.
And that's shocking, Larry. Think about it. Yesterday, what did he do? He ran more laps than anybody. I think they were anticipating maybe that there'd be long runs today, and they wanted to have their car right, but it looks like it falls off after about 40 laps.
Jeff Gordon backing up to Juan Montoya now, who is the 7th place car going for 6th. Matt?
Mike Gordon is quickly dropping. Reported to Steve Letarte that the car, after that last restart, is really losing the back end grip-wise. Since it's really swinging around, we're going to have to make some big changes when we hit pit road next.
Now, I want to go back to the 20 car situation because
Rudeman in trouble on the backstretch, Larry. Excuse me.
All right, Dick Bergman, I think we're wearing tires out right now. I think that's the problem that's going on possibly. Not with Rudiman. He has just dropped a cylinder. What a shame. His lap times had been as good, if not better, than the leaders. When he was out in the open, he had gone all the way from 10th to 2nd, and he is headed pit side.
I got to tell you, that extra gear that they came here with, in my opinion, is over revving these engines and blowing them up.
Yeah, that's 10 points, so it's probably well over 300 RPM.
And if you're running fast lap speeds like we are today, because it's a little cooler overcast, that could be the problem.
Hamlin in the wall off turn 2. That will put out the caution flag as Denny Hamlin got up.
Down the right front, Mike.
There's the answer.
Well, what I just wanted to say is they tightened Joey Logano up. The car was pushing, which is hard on the right front tire. Chris Devoda had told us during the commercial break that they wore the right front tire slam out.
Let's have a look at Hamlin's crash. He comes in from the right side of your screen on the bottom, straight up to the top, into the barrier hard.
Yeah, that's a heavy hit right there. That'll do a lot of damage.
It's caution flag number 3. This is Denny's rear camera.
Inside, we just blew a right side.
Pit road's open, Steve.
Jimmy Johnson's been dropping back Mike Joy. He says his car has been getting a little too snug in the center. That's hurting his exit. They will make a chassis adjustment. Dick.
Kurt Busch pits out of the lead with a race car that is handling so well. No wrenches go in the back window. They have an easy out here. No one is parked in front of Kurt Busch, so he'll never get trapped. Matt.
24 crew guys on the wall waiting for Gordon. An air pressure change called by Steve Letarte. Look, yep. Gas man Chris Hurd making a chassis adjustment to try to tighten up this race car. Krista.
Juan Pablo Montoya saying his car does not aim in the middle. Brian Patty said, do you just want air pressure or an adjustment? They are going to give him a wedge adjustment, and he has a gift with the 66 out and the 20 already stopping. He has smooth sailing out of his pit stall.
Kurt Busch will lead him off pit road. Greg Biffle, Jimmy Johnson, Montoya.
I'm going to tell you who this worked out perfect for is Brad Keselowski. He finally gets to make a pit stop there, and he's in the top 10.
Working the third caution of the day in Bristol, Elliott Sadler will get the free pass after Denny Hamlin pounded the wall in turn number 2. 120 of 500 laps complete. Kurt Busch, your leader. Greg Biffle, Jimmy Johnson, Juan Montoya, and Jeff Gordon.
You know, concrete is good for a lot of things, and they start putting them in the pit boxes here because the gasoline just eats asphalt up, but it can be slick. So what teams were doing was using all kinds of chemicals and substance for grip for the car and for the pit crew members. But NASCAR made a rule a few races ago, you can't put chemicals down. You know, they were putting VHT and everything else. Simple formula, if you'll put it in your body, you can put it on pit road, and we're being told most of this stuff they're putting down is like soft drink syrup that's real tacky and real sticky.
Look at these guys, though. They didn't worry about the car. They just worried about the pit crew being able to get around the car.
You know, I've been saying for a long time, Darrell, when will somebody build a street car that has 300 horsepower and gets 30 miles per gallon? Well, there it is. Ford's new V6 in the 2011 Mustang, 305 horsepower, 31 miles per gallon highway. And this June, a V6 Mustang will attempt to go 1,000 laps around Bristol on a single tank of gas. Guess how many laps the car will make at Mustang1000lapchallenge.com, and you could win a 2011 Mustang V6. Good
Mike, I drove the pace car. I got out and I said, this most horsepower I've felt in a car in a long time. And I just assumed it was a V8. I assumed wrong.
That's a sporty little number right there.
That baby will get it.
Now, our leader, Kurt Busch, in the 2 car on this restart, he's elected to try the bottom lane.
Well, he's been better on the bottom. I think that's one thing.
Busch started second, but how about Greg Biffle in the 16, who has come from 25th on the grid to the lead?
And then he might rethink that next time.
Biffle gets an awfully good run on the high side, and I think Biffle will definitely lead this lap here at Bristol.
Well, the bottom lane has worked well for Kurt all day. It's just that top lane on fresh tires at least has worked better for Jimmy Johnson and now Greg Biffle.
Kyle Busch won both of the races here in Bristol last year, but he has had an absolutely terrible time this weekend. The car was very slow in practice, and this is the right front that just came off his race car. He has said the car is just the way it was in practice today, that the right front simply has no grip. The rear end is trying to turn the car instead.
You gotta have any kind of, you gotta have any grip with tires like that.
Yellow is out. Raindrops. A lot earlier than expected.
Yeah, no
we had
kidding.
hoped that this would hold off till 4 o'clock or so, but there's a little bit of rain falling on the track. Not significant, but just enough so that these slick tires aren't going to get any traction. And there you see a drop or two on the camera lens.
Weather guy said we had a couple of 3 hours here.
Clarify who the weather guy is. It wasn't Larry Mack this time, was it?
No. Rick, the weather guy. Dadgum.
You know, there's some light colored sky and a little blue off to the horizon in at least one direction. So see if we can get this back underway pretty quickly. Fourth caution of the day for a little bit of rain here in Bristol. We're at a quarter of the way home.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing presented by GoDaddy.com is sponsored by FedEx. We understand you need reliable shipping options. FedEx. By Napa know-how. And by AT&T, a better 3G experience. In Bristol, Tennessee, we're live in time for an AT&T race break with Jeff Hammond, Chris Myers from the Hollywood Hotel, and some raindrops falling here. You know, last year's race, the entire race, we had a total of 13 lead changes. We've already had 12, and we've gone 130 laps so far.
We've seen some great aggressive racing right now. I don't think we've seen a lot of guys kind of like going and coming. I think that's the same thing we're going to see the rest of this race. There's going to be a lot of guys still we haven't heard from, like Kevin Harvick.
And Greg Biffle, the leader. Jimmy Johnson's led the most laps, but rain, a factor on the pre-race show. We thought we'd get through it. We welcome in Rick Dickert, our Fox Storm Scout from the Fox Storm Scout Weather Center with his weather machine. I don't know if you have a fuel-injected Doppler or what there, but the question, I guess, fans watching.
That's right.
Rick, how long is it going to last here? It's falling outside right now, but it's intermittent at the moment.
Should be light. It should continue light, as you just mentioned there, Chris. We'll look at the radar here, and it's this batch right here that's pushing through the Speedway area. I don't anticipate this shower lasting more than about 10 or 15 minutes. A little bit to the west and to the south, we're seeing a little bit of a dry slide here. So hopefully that will allow the race to continue for another hour or so. But there is a lot of light stuff to the south and a little bit further to the west. So we could be in for a couple of showers like this on and off through the race. But the bulk of the heaviest, persistent rain is still a few hours away.
All right, Rick will be keeping an eye on things. It's a concrete track. It drains well, or fast, I should say.
Well, I think the key thing is right now NASCAR has put the dryers out on the racetrack along with the stock cars because of the fact that as long as these cars are going around, the heat off the headers will also help keep the racetrack dry. So they're blowing the racetrack, getting it dry, getting it cleaned off, and all this right here should help get us back racing quicker.
Under our fourth caution, we mentioned 12 lead changes. Joey Logano started on the pole. And the past two race winners of the season, Kurt Busch and Jimmy Johnson, battling and jockeying for position. And as we said, Jimmy Johnson has led 77 laps. Kurt Busch has led 39. Clint Boyer with some engine trouble.
Yeah, he was totally unexpected about this, fourth in points, but you can see that he had a big explosion underneath that number 33 hood.
And then tire problems for Logano.
Yeah, he runs over something and gets clipped coming into pit road, but he comes down the wrong way, loses a lot of time, a lot of ground, finds himself back in 36th position.
His first career pole, and then Denny Hamlin, part of Joe Gibbs Racing, also with a tire problem.
Chris, it looked like a hard lick, but he's still out there running in 30th position on the lead lap.
So the early indications so far, some tire action. We've seen a few guys kind of brush into each other. The Carl Edwards, Keselowski haven't gotten near each other.
Well, it's not time to, Chris. I mean, there's a time and a place for everything. Not at the first part of a race. You should be smart enough. Keep your nose clean. Realize, really, if you're going to get pushing and shoving, it's the latter part. But the cool thing is, so far, we've seen some great racing. Guys have got some cars that work better on the bottom than others. Other guys are able to work up toward the top. So,
and Larry McReynolds pointed out, too, obviously, Jimmy Johnson came in. People thought the car to watch. Kurt Busch has held his own. Any other early indications of some of the drivers? Jeff Gordon is currently running fifth, who's won here 5 5 times.
You got Mark Martin and Tony Stewart. All of a sudden, they got their cars better. But here's a guy that's got 5 wins here. There's a guy that understands, how to get to victory lane, and that's Mark Martin. He's as tough as they come, and he likes rock and roll too.
And Kyle Busch, who started 38th up to 25th, he won twice last year. Keselowski running in the top 10. Be sure to cast your vote all season long for the AT&T Fastest Pit Crew of the Year. The standings from last week, and you can text from your AT&T phone the car number of the crew you think is the most valuable in each race. Text it to 2258. Delivered by AT&T, the nation's fastest 3G network. 135 laps in. We're drying out the track here in Bristol, Tennessee. This is NASCAR on Fox.
Welcome back to Bristol Motor Speedway. We're under caution. The skies are lightening up. NASCAR drying the track, trying to get us back under green flag racing. Here's the start-finish line at Bristol, and we've talked about the pit road being on both sides. Here is Joey Logano's pit, right at the end of pit road on the front side. So under caution, he has to enter the pits in turn 2, come around to his pit here, and exit at turn number 1. However, under the green flag, he can enter the pits at turn 3 or turn 4 and exit the pits at turn 1. Things for Logano got a little bit confused, and it can be confusing at Bristol. It requires an awful lot of coordination between driver, crew chief, and spotter, as Jeff Hammond explains in this week's Nationwide Pit Zone.
Bristol is unique. It still has the split pit road. The other thing about Bristol we don't want to lose sight of is how loud it is down here on pit road. Imagine having a chainsaw right behind your head for 500 laps or 3 hours. It can get pretty busy and pretty noisy. Because of that and the split pit road, you, the crew chief, and the spotter up above have got to be on your toes. You got to let that driver know whether he's coming down for a caution flag stop or it's a green flag stop. Communication is so important, and this noise really makes things difficult. But being the right place, the right time, is going to be the key to winning.
Thanks, Jeff. Joey Logano currently scored in 36th place after cutting down a tire and then having that mishap as to where to enter the pits under green. A little bit damp here in Bristol, but they're trying to get the track dry just as quickly as possible.
I think we're going to be good here, guys. It's already stopped raining, and it doesn't take but just a few minutes with those jet blowers to dry that concrete up.
We'll take a break from Bristol with Greg Biffle leading Jimmy Johnson, Kurt Busch, Paulo Montoya, and Jeff Gordon.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing, presented by GoDaddy.com, is sponsored by Ford F-Series, America's best-selling brand of trucks for 33 years straight. Built Ford tough. By Nationwide Insurance. Call or visit us online for a quote today. And by DirecTV. For the most HD channels, get DirecTV.
Race cars keeping heat in the racetrack, and 5 jet dryers hard at work. As you watch from our aerial coverage brought to you by DirecTV. You can learn how to win $1 million at directtv.com/NASCAR. Let's go downstairs for our DirecTV head-to-head knockout pit report. Steve Burns.
Well, Mike, sometimes the best adjustment is no adjustment. When the third caution flew on lap 115, Greg Biffle told Greg Irwin the car is really starting to get free going into the turns, but leave it alone, so they just took tires. Dick Berggren.
Tony Stewart has gone from 11th to 7th, driving a race car that he thinks is just perfect for him. He has had a bit of luck here. He has won a single race at Bristol in the Cup Series, but 3 times he's led the most laps, only to be disappointed at the end when things like a fuel cable broke and shut the carburetor off from gas. He's hoping today for no mechanical problems.
Martin Truex Jr., a nationwide winner here at Bristol, but still searching his first top 10 in the Sprint Cup Series here in Thunder Valley. He says the biggest issue I've got, we just got to work this car, make it roll a little better through the center of the corner. Other than that, it's pretty solid.
What about Paul Menard? At this time last year, he was 38th in points. He is in the top 10 in 9th, meaning for the first time in his career, he participated in NASCAR's top 12 media availability. The media asked him questions. He said he loved it. Right now, he's currently running 10th, and he said his car is just a little bit snug in the center, but otherwise, very good.
Thanks, Krista. Now, next week is our selection show, and then you can fill out your bracket for DirecTV head-to-head knockout. and a perfect bracket could win $1 million. Visit directtv.com/NASCAR for all the information.
Well, if it's anything like the NCAA's, I don't know if anybody could get a perfect bracket or not. What a bunch of upsets. Other than Kentucky, and they're just upsetting people.
It already looks like, as we're getting on one to go, that Greg Biffle, our leader, I think he learned a lot while ago with Kurt Busch, the leader, taking the inside. Greg has elected to restart this race on the outside line.
They're going to add one lap to clear the track of the jet dryers. Next week, same song, second verse. We're on NASCAR's shortest track, Martinsville, Virginia. I love this place.
Drag strip straightaways, little track, a lot of smack, little Martinsville contact. You got a man up there, boys. You go in the corner like a gentleman. You come off the corner like an animal.
Someone will have a new block. Next Sunday, noon Eastern, NASCAR on Fox, where they've been racing since 1948, Martinsville, Virginia.
And somebody wants to win this race. This is the last race with the wing. Martinsville will be the first race back to the conventional rear spoiler.
What you want to do at Martinsville is clean everybody's clock.
And take one to the house, too.
Regan Smith got the free pass on this. Caution for rain. We are good to go. The Ford Mustang safety car heads for home. Greg Biffle, Jimmy Johnson will lead them down for this restart with 354 laps to go.
Whoa, that was a bit of an unusual restart. I think the 16 started to go, woed up a little bit, and that really messed up Montoya, but the 16 benefited from it.
Short tracks, they call that a Texas restart by the leader, Darrell. I don't know why.
No, A.J. Foyt. I used to think about A.J. He didn't like those Texas restarts. May have come from him. I think that means it's a jackrabbit, you know.
Oh, that could be. Mark Martin making some noise on the outside as he tries to overtake Kurt Busch for fourth place in that green number 5.
Well, they have helped that car a bunch.
Every pit stop, they have made it better and better and better. He gets a run on the high side. He'll take fourth away from Kurt Busch in that 2 car.
Mark's car was just really tail happy, jumping out from under him off corner earlier in the race, but it looks hooked up now.
Montoya having a strong race in the early going. It would surprise no one for him to go to victory lane here, despite his lack of short track experience. The car's been good all weekend.
Yeah, but he's run good almost ever since he ran his first race here a couple of years ago.
Jamie Mack behind Menard. Let's go to his pit. Dick Berggren.
Well, the Daytona 500 winner is not feeling well at all, Mike. Fumes are getting into the race car, making McMurray nauseous.
It can come from one thing that happens here, the car will bottom out and you can knock a hole in your tailpipes and your headers, get fumes in them from the engine. You can knock one of the crush panels out of one of the wheel wells, get fumes in from the outside of the car, and even the brakes here can cause you to have a little bit of a headache.
I'm told he's been stuffed up fighting the flu, and what's the first thing that'll affect? Your equilibrium. And if you don't need it here, you don't need it anywhere. Paul Menard on the outside of McMurray, and that's 8th and 9th place.
Darrell, it's funny you mentioned the brakes because I was in their garage area, their pit area this morning, and they were completely changing everything about the brakes on that car. Kevin Mannion, the crew chief, said they had fought the brakes ever since they unloaded on Friday.
Well, we used to come here with pretty minimum brakes because you don't use a lot of brake here. But these cars, these cars now, you just use a ton of brakes setting the front end.
Matt Kenseth on the high side in the 17, Truex underneath, and here comes Ambrose. Ambrose in the 47 fighting back from a pit road speeding penalty earlier.
Yeah, he's fighting his way back to the top 10 after qualifying 9th. In fact, he moves into the 12th spot. But yeah, he was like 30th not that many laps ago with that 47 car.
Well, Marcos was one of our best cars, remember, in practice, high on the practice sheet and good on long runs.
Greg Biffle has company for the lead. Jimmy Johnson trying the bottom where Kurt Busch had a lot of success early in the race.
Well, he sees where Greg Biffle's running. If he's going to pass him, it's going to have to be on the bottom right now.
Kind of old school would tell you that you're on a short track, you should run the bottom if you want to be fast. Now, I think some guys kind of try to make the top work, but if I'm going to drive this race, I'm going to run the bottom.
And that's why, Darrell, when they resurfaced this track, they put a progressive banking in it, so the upper grooves are steeper, and you had more of a choice of where to run instead of having to be a bottom feeder all day.
Single file. Not anymore.
6th place, Gordon and Keselowski.
And I'm going to tell you, we still are a little ways away from halfway, but the call of the race right now goes to Jay Guy, the crew chief of that 12 car, when he left him out back on lap 40 on that first caution and ran 116 laps before they made their first pit stop. They got that track position, and now they're keeping it.
And Jay Guy, you might say, who is Jay Guy? Where'd he come from? Well, he was the crew chief on the 78 car last year, but Brad said he and Jay, when they go test or when they do some nationwide races or some of the truck races, they kept running into each other and exchanging ideas, and they really started to connect and say, you know, we should try to work together. Brad actually chose him to be his crew chief.
But it's amazing, you know, Brad ran this 12 car 4 or 5 races last year, struggled their guts out. Struggled when this year started, had a great run going in Atlanta before the wreck there late in the race, backing it up here at Bristol.
Brad started off pretty much that way last year in the Nationwide Series, if you recall. Got in a number of wrecks, had a number of problems, took him about 5 or 6 races before he got his legs under him. I think he's going to be okay.
Jamie McMurray joins this battle. Darrell, I guess there's nothing to make you feel better than going toward the front.
You got to. If your car's running good and you're competitive like he is right now, you won't think about how bad you feel. Good handling race car, good running race car is like medicine.
Tell you what, Jamie McMurray may be feeling sick, but he continues to move forward with this one car as he just got him another car as he's battling Jeff Gordon in that 24. This is a battle for 7th. And look at Truex in the 56 car.
Boy, right there, Jamie would love to be able to just go up just a little bit. He's going to be able to this time. Pick up so much speed when you come off the corner and let the car go all the way out to the wall. It really bogs you down when you got to stay down low underneath somebody.
What an awesome shot there out the front of Truex's car.
You know, we're going to see a lot of Marcus Ambrose today. Anybody who can get from the back of the pack with a penalty back up into the top 10 that quickly is going to be a car to watch.
Just think about his 2 races here last year. He finished 10th a year ago. Most of the race was on 7 cylinders as Montoya in the 42 car just takes 2nd place away from Jimmy Johnson. And now Johnson falling into the clutches of his teammate Mark Martin. It looks like that the 48 car once again is only good on the short fresh tire run.
Krista, how about the 42?
Well, you mentioned how good Montoya is here with limited short track experience. He told me this weekend, I actually really enjoy racing at Bristol. I found it intimidating at first, but I caught on to it pretty quickly. And that's what he's doing today. He's up to 2nd, Matt.
Krista, there we go. Krista, the big concern for Mark Martin wasn't about the fact his race car was tight. They made a track bar adjustment backing up on that to try to free it up. But it's what the tire issue was for the 20 of Logano and the 11 of Denny Hamlin. He asked Alan Gusson, were they chunking or they just wear? And he told him it was a wear issue to try to bring the calmness back down to Mark Martin. Always someone who let's keep an eye on possible tire issues, which apparently doesn't appear there is one right now.
You know what happens, Larry? We've documented this before. It seems like it's a team issue. You know, the front end settings, the way the front end works, pretty common car to car on every team. And so if one car has an issue wearing the inside of a tire, probably figure the other one will too.
I tell you, we talked about Jimmy Johnson in the 48, Darrell, not being good on the long run. Another one that just seems to be backing up is his teammate Jeff Gordon in that 24 car. Jeff has actually lost several positions. Now he's outside the top 10 on this run.
I think if we watch his car just a minute here, you'll see why. It just really gets really loose with him when he starts to lead. I think he's pushing loose. He's got a lot of wheel in the car, and then when it comes off the corner, the back end snaps out. We've seen that with a number of cars.
Montoya wants the lead from Greg Biffle. Here comes the Colombian on the bottom.
They have done a phenomenal job, I think. Brian Patty is crew chief and won. They've worked so well together. They made the chase last year. I'm really impressed with the job these guys have done. And his teammates not doing poorly, doing pretty well too.
Good job there.
Tell you what, he just drove by Greg Biffle.
Right front.
Don't like the sound of that.
It sounds like everybody is very cautious about that right front tire. It never gets a break at this half-mile racetrack.
178 laps complete. And the new leader in the Food City 500 is Juan Pablo Montoya.
The gloves are off. You're watching NASCAR on Fox.
Sprint brings you an inside look at what's happening now inside the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Biggest mover in this race, up 29 positions. That's Brad Keselowski. And Greg Biffle, who's come from 25th to 2nd right now, would be the point leader. For more NASCAR stats, in-car audio, and live race radio, check out NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile at sprint.com/speed. 190 laps complete, 310 to go. And we've settled into the conveyor belt mode, although several drivers, including Jeff Gordon, keep trying to widen the conveyor belt and are just about out of racetrack.
Well, they're looking for something. Their car's gone off where they were running, like down around the bottom pretty much. Now they're just moving up high and trying to find a little grip up next to the wall. These guys here are just...
Well, their spotters or crew chief are telling them leader on the same straightaway. So desperation's setting in.
And like I told you a while ago, the worst thing you hate to hear is don't let that guy hold you up.
Now you see that Montoya's 42 is only about 2 seconds behind that pack, trying to put them a lap down.
And a coming.
Been watching this battle right here with Jimmy Johnson and Keselowski McMurray. Again, it just seems like Jimmy Johnson, like his teammate Jeff Gordon, just not good on the long run. These guys are going at it pretty hard as we're approaching lap 200.
Earlier we said David Rudiman had dropped a cylinder and they're done for the day. They're in the garage. Joining Eric Almirola, Clint Boyer with engine failure, Michael Waltrip, Dave Blaney, and Joe Nemechek. The car is out of the race.
Very guy, I've just been kind of watching quietly, as you say, work his way up to the front is that 5 car of Mark Martin. He's sitting there in 3rd place and he's clicking off some pretty sporty lap times right now.
Look at this, Greg Biffle, a 16 car. I think Montoya saw early in the race. This is something we would have never seen Montoya do the first 2 years. Biffle called him. It's like, you know what? I'm not going to fight the issue because that green car, that 5 car, Mark Martin's getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, Mark's there. And I think the other thing, Larry, is these guys are well aware of using that right front tire. And if you got to drive the car a little harder than you think you need to right now, you might just use your head and back off a little bit.
Montoya's had 6 races here. His best finish was 9th in this race 1 year ago.
And to your point, Darrell, remember Montoya said something about the right front tire on the radio just about 20 laps ago when he took the lead.
You can feel, you know, you can't always feel the right rear going away, but you can feel that old right front going away.
Fourth place, Marcus Ambrose has caught Kurt Busch as they work past the lap car of David Stremme.
You know, Darrell, we were talking about this in our practice show the other day. Marcos Ambrose, his forte is road racing. Well, even though this track has the banking of a speedway, what do you have to do here that's like a road course?
It's really back off early. If you can learn it, and it takes so much discipline because there's all that banking. You go down that short straightaway, you barrel it off in that corner, and you say, car won't turn, car won't turn. Back off early, get the front end set, and then gas hard off the corner. That's how you pass people.
Now these two are racing side by side, but they're about to catch 3rd place Mark Martin.
I tell you, Mark is getting it on right now. I tell you, you got to watch old Mark Martin when he's this good this early. Let's see how he looks in the car, Larry. Man, look at those hands. Cranking that baby. And look at his face. Man, that's a lot of work right there.
You don't think this place is physically and mentally demanding?
Martin moves past Denny Hamlin, who is 1 lap down. Matt?
Great shot. You can see Mark Martin using that elbow pad and the Arkansas grip, as he calls it, but he still can't get out of the back of his mind the tire issue that some other teams have been experiencing.
Car in the wall, back straightaway, Casey Kane.
That may very well be a tire. We've been out there for quite a while. Caution is out.
Caution's out, caution's out. Got an opening coming here.
Steve?
And Mike Casey Kane has been complaining about his brakes vibrating horribly since about lap 100. He also said moments ago he was concerned about that camber and that right front tire.
Might not be in the brakes, it may be the tires. You get a little chunk out of your tire, it'll vibrate.
Here comes the number 9 in from the right side of your screen.
I don't think he ever hits the wall. I think he gets mighty close.
Boy, he did, but you could see that thing just take off right there in the middle of the corner.
It was the best place it could be, right in the middle of the corner, and he hadn't gotten back to the throttle yet, so that really worked out well for him.
Inside, still a lot of them coming here, bud. A lot of them coming.
It works out better for Denny Hamlin, being the first car 1 lap down. Hamlin will get the free pass. Pit road's open. Steve.
Mike, for the second consecutive pit stop, no adjustments for the 16 of Greg Biffle. Loves his car the way it is right now. 4 tires for the Biff.
With David Rudiman out of the race now, Kurt Busch has an easy in as well as an easy out. He's described the behavior of the car to Steve Addington, his crew chief, and told him, do whatever you think. And Addington called for a change in the back. Matt.
Mark Martin's car is great on the first part of the run, but then it goes to the tight side. They're going to make a chassis adjustment and an air pressure adjustment. Mark is concerned once that car goes tight just how much he's abusing that right front.
No chassis adjustments needed for Juan Montoya. His car is good. They were just worried about having him a little too tight in the center, and you heard him talk about protecting that right front. They needed it. There is a little bit of cord showing as I see the right front coming off. The crew looking at it now, but his car is good.
And Montoya first off pit road ahead of Greg Biffle.
I think pit selection is what did that. He's pitting right down near the exit of pit road, barely nips Biffle off the end of it.
That's a happy group trying to help Montoya win his first NASCAR oval track race.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox, presented by GoDaddy.com, is sponsored by Sprint, proud sponsor of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series.
Getting ready for the restart, 291 laps to go. Juan Montoya outside of Greg Biffle, 291 to go. 209 complete. And Montoya, whose best short track finish in 18 races, 3rd at Martinsville last October, brings him down for the restart. Kurt Busch hanging tough on the outside. Montoya the leader. Biffle now moves up to the high groove. Then Keselowski and Mark Martin. Mark has 2 wins here. He finished 6th and 2nd last year. Last August, Mark Martin led half the race.
Yeah, well, the 2 cars a little quicker than Montoya, but just right in his way, and he dropped to the bottom and tried to go around the bottom. Here comes the Biff.
Casey Kane in the wall, turn 2. Bounces off it, keeps going. I believe he'll stay green.
You're all clear there, all clear.
Again, looked like a right front.
Yeah, because we definitely got confirmation that's what happened to that car that brought that last caution. Racetrack's clean, and right now we stay green as we got Greg Biffle fighting on the high side. He'll take the lead from Montoya.
The 9 car, I didn't see a tire down on it.
On this time here.
Yeah, on the right side, it looked up.
So Kane makes it to pit road as the battle's now for 2nd. Kurt Busch underneath Montoya. Steve, how about Casey Kane?
Mike, right side tires for the 9 of Casey Kane. Little indecision. They are going to go ahead and put 4 tires on for Kane. But again, he's been complaining about brakes vibrating. And we took a look at the tire that came off the right front a while ago, and it was corded.
Boy, look at them. We're 2 by 2 up there at the front. We got a couple of new players in the top 10 too. Jeff Burton in the 31 and Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's moved into the top 10 in that 88 car. Kurt Busch fighting for the lead.
There's an old short track saying, 4 cars under a blanket. This is 6 cars under a blanket fighting for the lead.
Those red cars look fast. 42 and that 12. I can't believe Keselowski is just really, really hooked up right now, getting around Jimmy Johnson.
Jeff Burton coming into the picture. I believe that's the first time Burton's been up in the top 8 today.
Yeah, and I just mentioned him, and then the guy right behind him, that 88 car of Earnhardt Jr. But these two guys, they will not give up at the front. Just keep battling back and forth, the 2 and the 16.
A couple old buddies there. They've raced each other hard before.
This battle for the lead will not quit.
I like it.
And the thing about it, they're going side by side. I think this says a lot for the racetrack itself. They're not losing to Montoya in that 42 back there in third.
Kurt Busch he is committed to that bottom. I mean, he's worked the car, and that's where he's made all of his passes. It's kind of like old school, back in the old days. That's the way you run this joint. A guy with pretty good handle on everything right now, though, is that old 5 car. Mark's car is really good, and it's good on the long run. It gets better as he goes along.
He's by far the best Hendrick car on the long haul.
Look at him drive up under Montoya there. Can't quite make the pass, but getting it done.
Just behind him, the 48 of Johnson has had such a good look at Keselowski's bumper. He's tired of that, goes for the middle as you watch from Dale Jr.
He's all 3 lanes.
Krista.
Dale Jr. thought his car was disconnected earlier in the weekend, but he loves this racetrack. They scuffed the wall a little bit in happy hour, so the crew had to do a little extra work. But really, all of their adjustments today have been air pressure. This is Dale Jr.'s best average finishing track.
Because of this concrete surface, and it actually has the seams. We saw Mark Martin describing that yesterday. You always hear the drivers say, my tires feel like basketballs. So you make more adjustments to that car through air pressure than anything else about it.
It's one thing, again, I know I keep saying I've driven the track, but the bottom right down there where Kurt Busch is running is real chattery. Pop, 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 just like you'd expect concrete to be. And that's why a lot of guys have trouble running that bottom line.
At the front of the pack, Kurt Busch has pulled out a lead of half a second, Dick.
Darrell, you've been talking about Kurt Busch liking the bottom and working on the bottom. They came to Bristol for this race with the intention of getting the car to work on the bottom. And during much of practice, that's what they were focused on. They figured if they could get the car to run at the bottom where few of others were able to run, they'd have a huge advantage.
Mark Martin working the bottom, putting those right side tires just in that black. Martin telling Alan Gustafson, keeping in mind of how this racetrack is changing, the car much tighter earlier on in this run.
Thanks, Matt. Casey Kane has gone behind the wall. They have the hood up on his Budweiser Ford.
And evidently, when he blew that right front tire, that he did some damage or something to some of the right front suspension.
Yeah, when he went by, you know, it looked like he had a flat tire, and that's what caused that second time into the pit road. His tires were up when he went by here.
Jeff Burton in the 31 won this race 2 years ago, leading a 1-2-3 finish by Richard Childress Racing, the only time that one team has occupied all the top 3 spots at this racetrack.
Kind of figuring that people like Mark Martin and Jeff Burton were just coming up on halfway. Start to talk about them along this time of the race.
They understand the concept. It's 500 laps.
233 complete. Kurt Busch leading. You're watching NASCAR on Fox, presented by GoDaddy.com.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox is presented by GoDaddy.com, where you can make the web your domain with a .com name for less than $1 a month.
That was the front stretch in 1966. In that concrete building was NASCAR radio and public address. This was the back stretch where people sat up on the hillside. Just a few seats there. And look at the back straightaway at Bristol today. Capacity of 165,000 seats. A lot of folks today perhaps scared off by the rain. That backstretch area about half full. The front stretch pretty well packed as they work their way around the Bristol Motor Speedway.
Still 100,000 people or plus.
As Kurt Busch leads Greg Biffle by 1.5 seconds. Mark Martin, Montoya, and Jimmy Johnson the top 5. New name in the top 10, Brian Vickers in the number 83 Toyota has just passed Tony Stewart to move up into 10th place.
Yeah, he's been marching forward since the drop of the green flag. Started 28th. You know, Brian has never had a top 10 finish at this half-mile racetrack. Had a good run at Atlanta a couple of weeks ago.
Now to pick up on the Brad and Carl show. A lot's been written and said about that since those two got together twice at Atlanta. Brad's had a strong day. He's been in the top 10 most all day. But Matt, what about Carl?
He's been mired back mid-pack, might do an earlier issue on a pit stop. Now on the last run before this recent stop, he said the car was extremely tight early on. And after the stop, this was Bob Osborne's report back to Carl about their right front tire.
Yeah, it's going to get better and better here, but just take it easy till we get a good read, you know?
10-4. Yeah, help me out all you can, Jason. We're doing well. It's just, man, it's so hard to pass. Yeah, 10-4. You know, by the time our car gets good 50 laps in, we get a caution.
Just a slight issue on that right front, but he says it wasn't blistering. It was just the material starting to move around a little bit. And Carl said the car is bad tight again already.
Asking his spotter, Jason Hedleski, to give him some help up on the roof.
You know, the one thing, though, I notice about Carl, Darrell, is he seems to be the only car that's determined to hug the apron all the way through both ends of the racetrack.
And that's definitely harder on the right front because you're loading it up a whole lot more.
This has been quite a battle for 9th place. Keselowski and Vickers and Tony Stewart and now Jeff Gordon. It's a foursome fighting for 9th. Steve?
And Mike, Brian Vickers, as you said, made a great move to the front. His car is just a little snug in the center, but he likes it that way.
Yeah, a little tug on that steering wheel is not a bad thing. You can be aggressive. When you get it pushing, that's when you're going to put that right front tire in trouble.
One thing I noticed that he started doing a few laps ago when he really started moving up was diamonding the corner. Going in, running it all the way up to the top, and then diamonding the corner off. And it really helped his lap times, and he's moved up some since he started doing that.
Now you see Keselowski from Martin Truex's camera. Brad has fallen to the back of that group, back to 12th place.
There's one thing about these tires, it seems like they're pretty good for maybe 30, 40 laps, and then you got to have the magic setup. Uh-oh, is that the 47? No, he's okay. Thought he was slowing down. You got to have the magic setup to go past 30 or 40 laps.
And Marcus Ambrose there, he got caught again too fast on entering pit road. Second time today that he's had to work himself from the back. He's up to 21st now because of penalty.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to run out of laps. It's going to be the problem. I mean, he's definitely used all of his mulligans up on speeding on pit road because they've got a top 10 race car. Now, our points leader, Kevin Harvick, in the 29 right behind him. Kevin had actually made a run up toward the top 10 or 12. Of course, Kevin started back in the 33rd position, but it's almost like the racetrack is going through a transition right now, and some people that were good, they're starting to lose it just a little bit.
And unless you're thinking rain's in the, coming here shortly or soon before the race ends, we're only halfway. We're 8 laps past halfway. So whatever issues you got, get them fixed now. You'll be good at the end.
Truex moving past Keselowski. That's 12th place. Paul Menard looking in, and the 39 of Ryan Newman.
Menard kind of fell off he was running really well up well in the top 10, but he's sort of fallen back here lately.
Top 10 in points coming into this race for the 98. And I think Menard was a little dubious at the start of the season when he said he was going to run the full-time Nationwide and Sprint Cup schedule, but it seems to have helped him. He has really had a breakout season so far.
Boy, there's little tight quarters there, boys, coming off turn 2. That won't work as Newman tries to make it 3 wide. Looks like we've got a problem on the 34 car.
Travis Quapple.
That's got
coming to you guys. Coming to you.
Yep.
It's got a flat tire written all over it.
We stay green.
One. Just put right sides on it. Right sides here.
Travis was still on the lead lap with that 34 car. He was close to getting lap, but he was still on the lead lap.
Oh, gosh, the 18 car hard.
Kyle Busch
inside, still inside, still inside.
Will bring out the caution. It's the 5th one today.
Caution's out, caution's out.
He had flirted with the turn 1 wall twice previously in this race.
No, it was the tire, Mike. He just went straight into the wall. Watch it. I was looking right at it. Comes down here and just right about there. Bam.
Darrell, it's almost a pattern. Once we cross a 50-lap run, it's like we're flirting with some right front tires.
Remember earlier we saw a tire that came off of the right front of Kyle Busch's car, and it was worn right down to the cord.
Just hadn't been happy with that car ever since we got here. Practiced poorly, qualified poorly, and now he's got damage.
Pit road's open, Steve.
Mike, Greg Biffle saying his car is just a hair tight. The last 2 stops they've made no adjustments. This time, small air pressure out of the left side tires. Dick?
At his best track, Kurt Busch is having a terrific day. He's won here 5 times and just told the crew that the car is so good, make no changes on it on this pit stop other than 4 tires and gas. Matt.
Seems like Mark Martin's been holding station in 3rd for much of the race. He says the car's still on the tight side. Alan Gustafson going to make a track bar adjustment, go up again, and an air pressure change on the 5. Krista?
Montoya's car was tight on the last run. They did not make the track bar adjustment they thought about, so this time they will. The 42 still tight. They're going to go up just a bit on the track bar. The crew coming around to work on the left side. They had the money stop last time, gave Montoya the lead off pit road. It will not happen this time. Still a good stop, though, for the 42.
They'll come out 5th. With Kurt Busch out 1st, and the free pass car on this caution will be David Gilliland.
Looks like that 5 crew rose to the occasion, gets Mark Martin out 2nd.
Jeff Gordon's crew picked up 2 spots. We'll have a look at that. Getting onto pit road as we go to break. 235 laps to go in Bristol.
All right. 1 to go and to get here.
1 to go and to get here.
Stay focused, hit your mark. Let's do it, buddy. Stuff moves around here pretty quick. Let's go get us 2 in a row here. Fast and furious. You're the best at it. Let's do it, bud.
Ready? And
green, green.
Getting ready to restart after the 6th caution flag of the day. This one for Kyle Busch, who continues. Actually, all the Gibbs cars have had problems with the right front today. Denny Hamlin hit the wall in turn 2. So did Logano, and Kyle Busch in turn 1.
It's a baseball bat that you use to pry that fender off with.
And if you think about it, the Gibbs cars, they were one of the organizations having issues at Atlanta. Much different racetrack from Bristol a couple of weeks ago with those right front tires in general.
Logano, the pole sitter, now in 33rd position, and Denny Hamlin is back on the lead lap. He's in 19th.
Pretty nice recovery for that bunch.
Who's the only Daytona 500 2-time winner that has his own variety show? That'd be Michael Waltrip, and you'll see him host Fast Track to Fame with a new episode this week that was shot here in Thunder Valley. NASCAR Nation's next great superstar. You could see it soon. And this week it's only on Speed. Check local listings for the start time in your area. America's most unique performers on Fast Track to Fame. Ready to go green. Kurt Busch, Mark Martin from 13th up to 2nd. Greg Biffle, Jimmy Johnson, Juan Montoya, the front 5. Jeff Burton 6th. Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jamie Mack.
Like Kurt Busch is going to make that outside line prevail. Jimmy Johnson in the 48 was trying to make it work, but look at his teammate Mark Martin. Great runoff 2 on the bottom that time.
They have helped Mark's car so much. I can't believe how much better it is than it was when this race started. That thing will shoot up off the corner.
And on the bottom too.
But Busch gets such a good launch off the top groove at the end of the corner. He is denying Mark Martin a chance to lead this race for the first time.
Tell you what, on that restart, he took off like John Forso, didn't he? He's been paying attention to them drag racing boys.
Casey Kane is back in the race, 58 laps down after making repairs.
As I mentioned, that last run was a little over 50 laps. Dick Bergman was telling me, shooting me information, that the 2-car Kurt Busch's tires absolutely looked perfect after that run. No issues at all.
That's what drives Goodyear crazy, though. You know, a bunch of guys have trouble, but a whole lot of guys don't have trouble.
Kurt Busch in front of Mark Martin. Jimmy Johnson is cranking up for a while. Watching from Kevin Harvick, trying to chase down the 77 of Sam Hornish. Racing for 23rd. And Dale Jr. has been trying the inside on Montoya for 7th. He might make it work this time.
He's got him.
I'm going to tell you what, that's another car a little bit like his teammate Mark Martin. They just keep making it better and better every pit stop. This is something that has plagued the 88 team, but they continue to make progress now.
Again, both cars, where they're so good, is from the center of the corner off. They really are accelerating hard with no wheel spin.
Krista?
Well, before that last stop, Dale Jr. had been complaining that his car was getting too loose and that it was worse than it was before. He needed it tighter. That's exactly what his crew did. He said, I'm free in, but I am good everywhere else.
This thing, you got to be so careful. You just don't want to tighten that thing up so much that you start overworking that right front tire. You'll be in trouble.
Jamie Mack gets by Jeff Burton. And Jamie Mack, he might be sick, Dick, but he's moving to the front.
Well, McMurray is feeling a whole lot better right now. In fact, on that last pit stop, they offered to put a couple of Alka-Seltzer in his water bottle, and he declined. The theory is that he had gotten too close to the jet dryers earlier when they were drying the track, and it was the fumes from the jet dryers, not the race car, that had made him sick. McMurray running well, feeling well.
Jeff Gordon trying Montoya, who has backslid to 8th place now.
You know, back to Dick Berger's report on Jamie McMurray, unlike at the Speedways, both of the windows are open on the car here. We don't run that right side window, so that's another area for fumes to get in.
And really with the bowl effect of this racetrack, the track itself, and then the stadium effect around the outside, things hang over this racetrack, particularly on an overcast, cloudy day like this. That's what used to be so tough here, was the carbon monoxide and the heat and everything that the driver breathed, and the dust and everything. But now these guys have these carbon monoxide filters. It's made all the difference in the world in how they feel when the race is over with.
Dale Jr. just shot past Jeff Burton, and that moves Jr. up to 6th as we watch 3 of the 4 Roush Fenway cars in a row, led by Carl Edwards, who is 16th. Of course, Biffle is up in 4th.
Yeah, we're approaching 300 lap mark, and we still have 29 cars on the lead lap. We only have 6 cars out of this race so far. Remember my FedEx understanding the race, average of 36 cars normally are running at the end of this race. They always find a way to repair them and get them back out there.
Matt, how about Mark Martin?
Well, Mike, he was telling his spotter, Jeremy Brickhouse, pass along a message to Busch. Let me lead a lap for my 5 bonus points, and I'll drop back, and we both can save our tires and not try to over-abuse our stuff, racing each other at this juncture of the race. His spotter said, I passed it on several times. I don't know if he's gotten the message or not.
Oh, I'm pretty sure he got the message, but I'm pretty sure that isn't going to fly. You know, they're not teammates, and Mark might do that for someone, but I don't think Kurt will.
Might change his mind if Mark begins to pressure him, but right now, Kurt's under no pressure from the 5.
NASCAR on Fox live from Bristol, Tennessee. It's time for an AT&T race break. We've gone 304 laps out of 500. And Kurt Busch, who won at Atlanta, then the off week, trying to go back-to-back. The only other time he's won back-to-back races, 2002, Martinsville and Atlanta. We've had 21 lead changes, 6 different leaders, 6 cautions. And how about Dale Earnhardt Jr., who is trying to end a streak of 61 races without a win, has jockeyed himself up to 6th, Jeff Hammond.
I think it's more important right now that Dale Jr. is having a really solid run, Chris. He started back in the 18th position. He's been slowly but steadily making improvements to this race car, and they find themselves right now battling for a top 5 position, and that's something we haven't seen from him a lot this year, and I think it's good to see it here at Bristol.
All right, now also at Bristol, Jeff Burton to place, as Mike Joy pointed out, he's had some success here before winning in 08. This is his 33rd race here. He's the kind of veteran driver who can endure a race like this, position himself just for the right time to make his move if he's got the car.
And I'm glad you said it that way, because I talked to Jeff on the way to the drivers meeting this morning, and he said exactly that. He said, I'm trying to keep my nose clean to pass the halfway point and start trying to work my way up toward the front, and once again, he's doing exactly that. That's the way you win here at Bristol.
There's a bit of a long shot. How about Marcus Ambrose, a part of Brad Doherty Racing? You talk about the Cinderella story or the NCAA tournament, and he's a guy who last year finished in the top 10 in both Bristol races, and we know he's more of a road course racer, but he seems to be hanging in here, made up for an earlier pit road problem as well.
Yeah, I saw a little bobble right there in that 47 car being driven by Marcus Ambrose, and yeah, I would call him a long shot all the way from down under Australia, but don't call him a road racer, call him a racer. I mean, this guy has really matured and developed a lot. If you can run well here at Bristol, man, you can run anywhere. I don't care if it's a road course, super speedway, but he has mastered, I think, this Bristol racetrack in a pretty short period of time.
Racing like the devil, passing a lot of cars from Tasmania, Australia.
The Tasmanian devil, right?
And Stewart Haas Racing, Tony Stewart running 8th currently, came in 8th in points. His teammate, Ryan Newman, who has not had a terrific year, but running okay today.
Well, they're trying to get something going here with this organization. I talked to Tony Gibson a while back, and he said, you know, Jeff, we fought our way back to get in the chase a year ago. We think we can do it again, but you've got to start turning it around, and today's the day you've got to start doing that. I mean, Chris, short track racing is really where Ryan, I think, has got a lot of strong potential, and he knows he can get the job done here at Bristol. So today they need to come out here, I think, with a top 10 finish.
And you're looking at the leader, Kurt Busch, the Blue Deuce, dealing with some traffic here. And a lap ago with Elliott Sadler part of that lap traffic.
You get an opportunity to see right there that he just gets passed by the Blue Deuce, and he's up high, and that number 2 car, he is really working well on the bottom side of this racetrack. He pulls over, Kurt backs off a little bit, and as soon as he slides up, he sees that opening, and here he comes.
And it's hard to spot between that, but Mark Martin and Jimmy Johnson running 2nd and 3rd. Jimmy Johnson dominated the first 120 laps or so, leading 77 of those. But as we said, Kurt Busch, and talking to Roger Penske, he talked about how Kurt Busch has taken over more of a leadership role. They've had some problems in the past, but the maturity of Kurt Busch, talk about his brother Kyle, but the way Kurt has run, it's helped out a guy, believe it or not, like Brad Keselowski and that Penske race team.
Well, that's where experience comes into play. I mean, he's won a lot of races. Talking about Kurt Busch, he's won a championship, and that's what I think one of the reasons why Roger Penske went after him, not only because of his leadership capabilities, but he likes the edge on the driver. This guy does have an edge to him.
All right, you can text your opinion on who you think should win the AT&T Fastest Pit Crew of the Year award. Points are awarded for fastest pit times. Jeff, of course, has his selection, winning the race, and most importantly, your vote as well. It's the AT&T Fastest Pit Crew of the Year award delivered by AT&T, the nation's fastest 3G network. We haven't seen the hot tempers and the short fuses we always talk about, but there's still plenty of time left.
I was going to say, you're getting a little bit premature here, my friend. We've still got a long ways to go. I think anything is possible. And these guys, when they realize realize it's so difficult to pass. When you get to somebody, you're not going to have the patience when you get down about 50 laps to go.
This has been an AT&T race break from the Hollywood Hotel. Let's rejoin the guys in the booth. Darrell Waltrip, Larry McReynolds, and Mike Joy.
Great battle here for 5th place. Jamie McMurray trying to hold off Dale Earnhardt Jr. They've been chasing back and forth throughout, working a bit of lap traffic. They get past Regan Smith. They had all but caught Greg Biffle 1 lap ago, and then traffic seemed to separate them out a bit. But McMurray's been running the high line and now drops low to get past Travis Kvapil. So Earnhardt Jr.'s not been able to do anything with him.
Observation on the 2 cars. I noticed at Atlanta last week, 2 weeks ago, the car wasn't that good to start the race, but Addington and the boys, they kept tuning on her a little bit, and by mid-race they were
car in the wall, turn 3, Darrell.
78 in the wall. By mid-race they had that car fixed up, and he's got a right front down.
Kevin, hold it up there, hold it up.
Caution is out.
7th caution of the day for Katy, New York's Regan Smith. Watch the 19 of Elliott Sadler. This is about 2 laps earlier. Now, he and Smith had been side by side quite a bit. There's the initial contact.
Looks like the 19 came up trying to get in front of 78 car, and it just wasn't quite clear.
And then 2 laps later, Smith went into the wall with the right front.
I'm going to tell you who couldn't be happier to see that caution. Our points leader, Kevin Harvick. He was just about to fall into the clutches of our leader, Kurt Busch.
Here he goes right here, and here's the pace car right behind him. So, yeah, he was on the verge.
Just not the kind of day Kevin Harvick and that RCR group was looking for.
I think for the 2nd time today, Denny Hamlin would be the free pass car.
And just think back to Atlanta. You know, they struggled. Harvick did at Atlanta. They finally got the car good enough to finish the top 10, but he hadn't been good since he got here, and that really surprised me.
Feeding time at the zoo once again. Steve Burns is the zookeeper.
Mike, Jimmy Johnson wants a little more overall grip. They're going to make a track bar adjustment. They're also going to take a ½ pound out of the right rear tire. Dick?
Kurt Busch, who won in Atlanta, is looking awfully good today, and so is his pit crew. They have had flawless pit stops all day long for Kurt Busch, and they got another one going right now, Matty.
Mark Martin's pit crew gained him a spot on pit road their last visit. Mark said the track bar adjustment didn't really allow the car to react like he wanted, so they're going to go a wedge adjustment on this stop on the 5. The car still not quite where he needs it on the free side. Kristen.
The communication with the 88 right before the caution came out, all of your corners look good. Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s request, don't do anything to hurt the center.
Kurt Busch will be first off pit road, and there's a log jam right behind him.
I believe we had a little rolling of the dice by Todd Parrott, that 17 car. It did. You see 13 spots with Matt Kenseth. Going to do a little science project here with about 175 laps to go, see how it works.
$175 to go. Kurt Busch, Greg Biffle, Matt Kenseth, Jimmy Johnson.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox, presented by GoDaddy.com, is sponsored by Verizon Wireless. Big racing fan? Get Verizon Championship Racing for race highlights, behind the scenes, and exclusive interviews right on your VCAS phone. From the network with the most 3G coverage, Verizon.
Bristol's always been an action track, whether it was the 1980s or the 1960s. There's David Pearson in a Holman Moody Ford taking the flag. And today, 172 laps to go. Will it be Kurt Busch, Matt Kenseth, Greg Biffle, Jimmy Johnson, Dale Earnhardt Jr.? Sprint brings you an inside look at what's happening now inside the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, and a little bit of onboard communication with the Hendrick teams.
And that 2, he doesn't even need brakes. He's cut so good. So I don't know, we're going to have to do something.
Weird, that 2 car looks so tight getting started, and then his stuff builds free. I don't know if that's something that's really going on, and if we can do that with our inner liners. I probably don't even run them here, but with our pressures.
For more in-car audio, check out NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile at sprint.com/speed. What's up with Dale Jr.?
That's what I was wondering.
At turn
looks
2.
Like he's going to the rear of the field.
He's too fast entering pit road. Penalized to the end of the line for the restart. Junior was in 5th place.
Well, this is a very long pit road as we document. It starts in turn 2, goes all the way back to turn 1, 35 miles an hour, and you have to do it in the curve on the apron as well. So we've had a lot of speeding penalties here today.
You mentioned David Pearson, and it reminded me we need to say hello to Larry, his son, who's in the hospital here in Tri-Cities. Larry, I hope you can hear us, and I hope you're doing well, and our prayers and thoughts are with you and your family. Had an accident down here yesterday in that Legends car race. Pretty big.
Yeah, the
pretty
race
big
of Legends. Broken ankle in 2 places, broken right hand, fractured pelvis.
Pretty hard hit. I took my breath.
Larry, hope you're doing well. Kurt Busch is going to bring him to the green flag with 169 laps to go. Matt Kenseth with 2 tires is alongside, and Busch gets a big jump.
I'm telling you, you've been working on that.
Yeah, I won't say that's a bad call, just changing 2 right side tires, but I'm going to be very anxious to see how it works out for that 17 car, Todd Parrott and Matt Kenseth.
It's going to work out all right for about 5 laps.
Well, Brad Keselowski did it early in the race and was able to hang in the top 10.
You know, this seems to be one of those racetracks where I think maybe just staying on the old 4 tires versus 2 tires sometimes works out better.
And that's what Keselowski did. He did not come in for tires and hung with the top 10. So you're right. This is a strategy we've not seen today from somebody up in the lead pack.
But you want to find out now. You don't want to wait till late in the race.
Keselowski and Edwards side by side, and we don't even expect them to come close.
In the what did you call him in the pre-race there, the 29 car, Kevin Harvick?
The agitator.
right in the middle of them.
Right behind him.
He likes to stir the pot.
He's going to watch this show.
He will for a little while.
Harvick made his comments well known to the media about the situation and the 2 players involved, and they weren't very kind.
Harvick prays for patience every day. He just wants it now.
Big old lane up here again.
Now, to their credit, both Edwards and Keselowski came out of the meeting with NASCAR and their car owners. Said we intend to race each other hard but clean. That incident is history. We're going to move on.
So you don't think this is by design?
No.
These 2 guys just riding along beside each other?
Not at all.
I think the #1 conclusion.
You never have driven much,
way too much alike.
Yeah, you haven't driven much, have you?
Matt.
Mike, like flipping a light switch, Brad Keselowski's lost a handle to 12 back on lap 254. He said this thing drives like a dump truck. And then later in the next run, he said, I don't know how, but this car has gotten even worse. It is just plowing. The car is so tight. They've made significant adjustments on the last 2 stops.
Look at this, Darrell. They're giving each other a lot of room on the racetrack.
Yes, sir.
For now.
Like Carl said, and he didn't finish the sentence. He said it's so hard to pass here when you're on probation.
Whoa, Greg Biffle, Mark Martin in the 5 car. Mark got in the outside wall hard.
They got hung. Oh, no. More.
Here we go.
Montoya piles in.
47 car.
Edwards is in it. Keselowski misses it. And what did Harvick just do?
He tried to shoot the gap, and he got clipped.
And Ambrose gets the worst of it.
Poor old Marcos. He had just gotten himself back up near the front. He was running like 13th.
But this is a product of 2 pit road speeding penalties, having to get your way back to the front because he had a top 5 race car.
Todd Parrott once famously said it, you're going to play back there with the squirrels, and
yeah,
something like that happens.
Yeah.
Mark Martin, a lot of damage to his #5.
He and Biffle got hung together over there off the turn 2, and they couldn't get apart, and it just rode Mark right into the wall. See, watch these 2 cars. 16 and 5, they get hung together right here. Bam. Mark hit that wall hard.
And he was trying to get down to pit road, and you can see he's all the way down on the right front.
Actually going a little fast for the condition his car was in. He goes right up in front of Jeff Gordon.
Ooh.
They just start stacking up from there.
Watch Harvick. He sees an opening right here. Shoot that gap right there, and he got clipped a little bit, but I think he's okay.
Speaking of shooting the gap, Carl Edwards, he shot the gap with that 99 car.
Logano, a lot of left side damage to his car. Watch Jeff Gordon, nowhere to go, and when he gets sideways, that stacks everything and everybody up behind him.
Boy, another guy that did a great job getting through there was the 12 car.
Yeah, Kozlowski did a great job. Edwards got some damage to the front end off of the 47.
The move that Harvick made was a really pretty cool move. If you watch him, he was going to get some pretty serious damage here if he hadn't have made the move that he made. Watch him right in the middle right there, and he gets clipped in the right rear, but he fortunate that's all he got.
This is where it starts.
Mark's up
Martin
on
outside Biffle.
And you just see right there, they're just stuck. He couldn't get off of him.
Boy, Montoya actually got a bunch of damage with that 42 car.
A bunch of guys really did an amazing job of sliding through there and not getting any damage.
They were hooked together almost.
Yeah, they got hooked together and couldn't get apart. And there goes Stewart. He was able to get around that.
Here comes Harvick.
Took a shot in the right rear, but I don't think it hurt it.
But Darrell, I think you said it. Just Mark was way too fast.
Too fast, yeah. He had the whole right side torn up, and he just couldn't hold the car down with that right front down like that.
8th caution flag of the day with 156 laps to go in Bristol. Under caution at Bristol, in numerical order, all of these cars received some damage in the crash triggered by contact between Greg Biffle and Mark Martin. Matt Yoakum is with Mark.
And back here with the 5 car now, Mark, Greg Biffle's team has passed along a message that Biffle's radio cord apparently came unhooked from his helmet, so he didn't hear a spotter. Walk us through what happened from your standpoint.
I needed to go. I hated for the GoDaddy.com guys. You know, I was a lot faster than those guys, and I was going, and it just came up, and, you know, I was on the brakes, but we were hung together when I saw he was going to shut me off, and it's just a shame. It's just a shame, man. We had a car that I really believe could contend to win. I know the 2 was leading, but we were running easy, saving our tires back there, just adjusting our stuff, and mistakes happen, but that's a real bad deal for us. You know, that was just one of those things. I needed to go. I couldn't be waiting around. I was waiting around long enough on them, and I had a fast race car and was going around the outside and just got pinned up against the wall.
And they pulled off that right front tire. They said the upper control arm was broken. Let's take it behind the wall.
Martin was the 6th place car at the time of the accident. He has now scored 33rd behind the pit wall. As is Marcus Ambrose, Regan Smith, several others under repair. David Reagan.
This is how we end up with so many cars, though, back out on the racetrack at the end of the race. You normally don't get enough damage that it puts you out. You can fix it, as you see all these teams doing, and they'll be back out there.
They'll have a little extra time because they're making repairs to the safer barrier at the exit of turn number 2.
Saw him go around here with a pickup with a couple of those styrofoam blocks are going to drop down in there. I don't think it's going to be too big or too long. Take too long. See them back here on the truck. Now there's a racer's favorite tool right there.
Big hammer.
Big hammer.
If that doesn't work, get a bigger hammer.
Get a bigger one. I said, give me a hammer.
Buckle up for fantasy racing action and take the checkered flag every week as you build your championship team while staying within a salary cap. Choose 5 drivers before the green flag waves and challenge your friends. Log on to Auto Racing Challenge on foxsports.com today. Keyword auto. 150 laps to go. And there weren't nigh as many as there was a minute ago after all the cars received damage in that incident. A little bit of hammer work among drivers trying to stay on the lead lap. You're watching NASCAR on Fox, presented by GoDaddy.com.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox, presented by GoDaddy.com, is delivered by UPS, the only delivery company trusted trackside by NASCAR.
146 laps to go. Here's your UPS race summary. 8 cautions for 73 laps, 21 of those for a brief shower. 24 cars now on the lead lap, 13 cars involved in the crash at lap 341. This race summary brought to you by UPS, the only delivery company trusted trackside by NASCAR. Matt Kenseth was 16th before that last pit stop where he took only 2 tires, and now he's holding on to 4th place.
Yeah, he is doing very well out there. Todd Parrott's the crew chief who made that call. How long can he hold on?
Well, I hope that we can hold off till our, our next scheduled stop. It's probably a few more laps than what we wanted to do with putting 2 right sides on there, but we got, our car was off early in the race, and we made some changes, and we needed track position. And Carl yesterday in the nationwide race, he got too close to pit wall and had to put on 2 tires because he didn't have a choice. And he was able to hold his own. He didn't gain any spots, really didn't lose, much. So hopefully, the good Lord willing, this is all going to work out.
Well, the driver has to take some chances. Sometimes the crew chief has to take chances too. Good luck with it.
And their best friend, all these caution laps, just cooling those left side tires down.
So Kenseth 3rd behind Kurt Busch and Jimmy Johnson. Next week, short track racing once again as we move on to Martinsville, Virginia, beginning at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Saturday, April 10th, will be in Phoenix under the lights for Sprint Cup Series racing, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And then Sunday, April 18th, we'll be at Texas. Coverage begins at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 Pacific. Coverage of NASCAR continues in high definition right here on Fox.
You look at those tracks, the further we go, the bigger and the faster they get. And remember, all with our new rear spoiler.
Now to Chris Myers and Jeff Hammond.
Thanks, Mike. Observing some of the pit activity today. And Jeff, who did you go with for our AT&T fastest pit crew today?
Well, it seemed like all day long the Kurt Busch crew, number 2, they've been up there along with Greg Biffle and our 4-time champion, the 48 car. They've just been solid all day long. Every time you turn around, they're making good pit stops.
All right, Jeff Gordon is back on pit road. Let's check in, and Matt Yoakum has the latest there. Matt?
Shannon McGlavery, his spotter, said didn't look like anything was rubbing, but Gordon said when I get on the brakes, I feel something rubbing. So Steve Letarte didn't take a chance, called Gordon to pit road to take a tug on that fender and take a look-see over the car just to make sure everything else was okay. Chris?
Thanks, Matt. Don't forget to vote for the fastest pit crew. Text your selection to 2258, delivered by AT&T, the nation's fastest 3G network. Last week was Martin Truex Jr. and that 56 crew, and we'll keep an eye on those throughout today, as we always do. Let's rejoin Darrell, Larry, and Mike.
Ready for the restart. David Reagan has returned to the track after crash damage repaired. Kurt Busch and Jimmy Johnson to bring them down. Busch elects the outside lane. Here we go.
Jimmy Johnson was laying off just a little bit there, trying to figure out if he could get a jump on, or at least go even with Kurt Busch. Man, look at McMurray, look to the inside.
Boy, he dove it straight from the top to the bottom of that one car.
Little crack in the door there, he almost drove through it.
A couple of cars back there just inside the top 10 and knocking on the top 10. Carl Edwards, he told us, needed a long run. And that 39 car, Ryan Newman, just been kind of nipping at it all day long. Dale Earnhardt Jr., the 88, remember, he got that pit road speeding penalty not that many laps ago.
Yeah, he was all the way in the back, but due to that wreck and some pretty good driving, evasive driving, here he is. He made up all that time just about.
So we listened in on Dale Jr. and crew.
Getting busted at Bristol for speeding by whatever it was when I didn't really gain nothing on nobody. It's not the way it should be. It should be a different way to do it.
I got you, bud. I got you. Calm down, take a couple deep breaths. Everything's going to be fine.
No, I've heard that voice before. Larry, I listened to it for 2 years.
Who does that remind you of?
Dale Earnhardt Sr.
Well, Junior's now in 12th place, trying to fight his way back toward the front. And right now, Junior lacks 3.5 seconds to the leader, and we've just gone back to green.
Yeah, he's got a good piece. I think if he just maintains his cool here, he'll be okay.
Could be a top 5 car.
Well, he was. He was running right there in 6th place before he got that penalty.
Now look side by side, the 56 Truex, the 98 Menard. They have been having a whale of a battle for the last 20-30 laps or so.
I don't think there's anybody that could say that Paul Menard is not the most improved driver, certainly in Cup. They have done a whale of a job.
That's a battle for 5th on the right side. Matt Kenseth in the 17 car. We just talked to his crew chief, Todd Parrott, trying to battle off Jeff Burton in that 31. But you're right, Darrell, on the 98 car and Paul Menard, I think we all felt like if he could get through these 2 short tracks here in Martinsville, that this group's for real.
Yeah.
Junior looking inside on Menard, who wiggles just a little bit off the corner. But the 10th may trade hands here.
The thing I see about Menard this year, I've seen him do it today. When somebody's faster than he is, he doesn't hold them up. He doesn't try to race people he doesn't have any business racing. Driving really, really smart. That's what I've seen.
You know, a guy we have not mentioned all day long because he's just now starting to show a little muscle. A.J. Allmendinger in that green number 43 car. A.J. started back in 23rd position. He has now cracked the top 15. He's just stayed out of trouble. Now he's working on Junior in that 88 car.
Now, Junior could not complete the pass on Menard and fell victim to Ryan Newman. Boy, Jeff Burton trying to work his way past Matt Kenseth, and Tony Stewart in the 14 is right there.
Hey, no smoke. Don't count him out just yet. That's a pretty good looking ride he's got today.
This battle's for 5th.
Look at this. Ooh, he was thinking 3 wide, man.
Because he got off of turn 4 so good that last time.
He thought, man, I could go down to the bottom, but not worth it. Now he's thinking, man, I could go right through there, but not worth it.
That hole closes up too fast.
That's a sucker hole right there.
The thing that amazes me is you can run side by side like that. In most short tracks, the guy in front of you would just be getting further and further away, and that's not really the case here today.
Yeah, you can carry good momentum high and low. Tony's going to get just a little bit impatient here, and it's not going to be very much longer. Take just so much of this, 2 guys in front of you kind of holding you up. That's how he feels.
Matt Kenseth displacing Kevin Harvick as the point leader, as Harvick's had several difficulties today. He's running back in 16th.
There is no question Tony is faster than those cars in front of him, but they got him blocked. He's in a box back there.
You know what? He tells me, him sitting there like this, he really likes those 2 guys.
Well, he really trusts those 2 guys, I would guess, because and I would say that Matt Kenseth and even more so Jeff Burton are 2 fellas that if anybody's going to give you enough room on the racetrack for your car, that's 2 of them.
You know who he's talking to, don't you? Go ask the spotters. Go tell the 31 or the 17 to get in line because you're holding me up.
Jimmy Johnson closing on the leader. He and Kurt Busch have been the class of the field most of the day. This just won't quit.
No, Tony's got you can see right there. He'll get him now. Now he got him lined up a little bit. I think he'll be all right.
And yet they remain 7/10 of a second behind Greg Biffle, the 4th place car.
He overdrove turn 1 and 2 that last time. You see the old 14 car wash up the racetrack.
But Larry, that's why you become very impatient. You get a little frustrated, start driving in the corner a little harder. Not a good idea, because all you'll do is get your tires worn down, get them hot, and then you won't be able to go.
120 laps to go. The rains predicted for about 4 o'clock today have held off, but for one brief shower that put us under caution for 20 laps.
It's a perfect day for racing, really. It's overcast and not terribly hot. The track's got a lot of grip.
Jeff Burton in the 31, he drove away from these two cars here. There you see him right there. He's pulled up actually behind Greg Biffle in 16, who's in 4th. I'll tell you what, up at the front, that lead is shrinking for Kurt Busch in that 2 car. That 48 is hounding him now.
Jimmy has led twice today for 77 laps. Kurt has led 200 laps today. Steve?
And Mike, Jimmy Johnson has spent this entire race trying to take care of that right front tire. The last 2 stops, Chad Canal said your right front looks great. When Jimmy said, I thought I was being a little abusive. But he said, just focus, we got a trophy to go get.
But who's... I've said this over and over about Jimmy Johnson, and we're not anywhere near the end here. We got 115 laps to go, but who's the best closer you've seen in this sport in a long time?
Man running second right now.
Yes, sir.
Jeff Burton has caught Greg Biffle. This is for 4th.
Now, most of these cars, they have been out there about 60 laps on these tires. Of course, we did have those caution laps in there, so they've actually probably got about 40 green laps for the most part.
You know, I said in the opening of the show, Mike, that Jeff Gordon said that the 2 tracks that are most tiring is Bristol and Watkins Glen, particularly when you have these long greens like this. We have had enough cautions kind of to break it up, but when you go long green here late in the day, you're hanging on for dear life at the end of this race.
Don't forget, Biffle ran 300 laps yesterday in the nationwide race as well. Kurt Busch leading Jimmy Johnson by half a second in the Food City 500.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox, presented by GoDaddy.com, is sponsored by AT&T, a better 3G experience, and by Mobil 1, the world's leading synthetic motor oil brand. Put some NASCAR in your car with the One, Mobil 1.
Caution is out at Bristol for the second rain shower of the afternoon, and Brad Keselowski does not pit with the rest of the leaders, so he picks up the lead.
We actually had 2 other cars that stayed out. Jeff Gordon in the 24 car and Elliott Sadler in the 19. Now, this was the race off pit road under this caution.
Matt Kenseth pitting on the backside and coming up into this group.
Everybody's going 35, right?
Exactly.
Exactly is exactly right.
This is the first Bristol race with more than 20 lead changes in 20 years. 1991, we had 40 lead changes. And there you see some of the low-hanging clouds over Bristol, Tennessee. Let's go out to L.A. as we get a brief rain shower. Rick Dickert, our Fox Sports storm scout. Is this another scattered shower, or is this the start of something big?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, as the afternoon progresses, we're going to see a better chance of more persistent rain. And you can see on the radar, it's really starting to fire up here. A lot more action in and around Bristol here. Mostly light stuff, and a lot of that not reaching the ground, but some of it is. And right now it's a cloudy and cool day in Bristol. So if we start to get any rain actually start to accumulate in and around the track, it'll take some time to evaporate. They'll have the dryers out, and I know those cars do a good job keeping the track clear. But as the afternoon goes on, we're going to see probably more of this. Light rain showers. Most of them will be brief. All the heavy stuff is still well off to the west, but you could see even to the south all this action pushing up, so we could see some more showers on and off as this race comes to an end.
Rick, we're going to need at least 30 minutes to get the rest of this race in. What do you think our chances are getting to 500 laps?
Yeah, I think we will, but there could be multiple cautions. You know, we are watching the showers as they push up, and as you can see to the south, because you can see it's all moving from the south towards the north around this low pressure system, which is still well to the west, and that's where the real heavy stuff is. I don't see any really heavy, persistent rain over the next hour or two. Most of that will hold off, but enough light shower activity that we could see a couple more cautions.
All right, thanks, Rick Dickert. In the words of our other famous forecaster, Carl Spackler, I don't think the heavy stuff is going to come down for quite some time.
That's the great thing about it, though. They can dry this concrete surface so well. Let's make sure we understand what has went on with these 3 cars that stayed out. Brad Keselowski and that group, they were last on pit road at lap 345. So they've got about 35 to 45 laps on their tires, and that would be not including the cautions. Now, the 2 cars I talked about behind him, Jeff Gordon in the 24, who was actually involved in that wreck on lap 340, he and Elliott Sadler, the 19 car that's showing 3rd right now, those guys actually pitted on those cautions. So realistically, they only have about 25 to 30 laps on their tires. Based on Brad Keselowski early in the race, I think that's a great call on all 3 of those cars because, again, the more cautions they run, these tires are going to continue to cool down. It wasn't that long ago, Elliott Sadler was a waiver round car.
103 laps to go. Brad Keselowski, who finished 2nd in yesterday's nationwide race, is our leader.
Waiting out the rain here in Bristol, it's NASCAR on Fox and aerial coverage brought to you by DirecTV. Learn how to win $1 million. Go to directv.com/NASCAR. Jeff Hammond, Chris Myers here in the Hollywood Hotel, and look who's leading the race with 100 laps to go in his first Cup race in Bristol. That's the 12 car of Brad Keselowski. In fact, he's led more laps today, 11 plus, than in the previous 21 races combined.
Pretty impressive. And you think about it like this, Chris. Go back to a couple weeks ago at Atlanta. Very solid run there for Penske Racing in his number 12 car. They come here. Kurt Busch qualifies outside pole, has pretty much, led the majority of this race today, but now he finds his teammate Brad Keselowski in lead late in the event.
Kurt Busch has led 208 laps. Carl Edwards currently 15th, a good distance away from the lead. Just a quick safe enough for now, right? A recap here. Clint Boyer came in 5th in points, but running 16th at the time. Some engine problems and out of the picture early. And then Joe Gibbs Racing with pole sitter Joey Logano, then Hamlin, then Kyle Busch, tire problems, all kinds of issues.
Yeah, all kinds of issues right there. And you take a look there at Denny Hamlin. He loses the right front, hits the outside safer barrier. He's still running just barely on the lead lap. Then all of a sudden, here comes Kyle Busch. He loses the right front tire. He gets an outside safer barrier, and his day has been kind of like long and drawn out. He's running 16th.
Yeah, frustrated here, but running 5th was Greg Biffle, who led for a while in this race, led 70 laps, triggering a wreck that took out Mark Martin. 13 drivers in total that were affected in some way. Kevin Harvick, Montoya, even Carl Edwards with some of that damage.
We had a big one right here. Looked like Talladega, didn't it?
So 7 different leaders and 24 lead changes so far in the race, and we've had a little bit of action, a little bit of rain delay. It was a kind of a combination here with 9 cautions so far.
Well, we've seen a lot of comers and goers. Here's one of the guys that's been making his way back up. He got caught speeding a little while back. He was up in the top 5, and all of a sudden he makes a mistake coming down pit road and had to go out to the back of the tail end of the longest line. He's now battled his way back up to 17th.
And we have a crew chief pit whip. Let's check in down by the pits, and we'll start with Matt Yoakum.
Chris, the guy who made the great call early on to get Brad Keselowski that track position was Jay Guy. He made the call again. Strategy from here on out for your team?
Well, we plan on keeping the Penske Dodge out the rest of the day. We have enough fuel to make it to the end, so we're going to gamble and see what we can come up with. That Miller Lite Dodge behind us is running awful strong today, but we hope we can hold them off and have a good solid points day.
And you look at just the difference in how this team has really rebounded from Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, we've had good cars all year. I mean, Steve Addington coming over, and myself and Travis Geisler, we all work so well together, and we just feed off each other. And all the Penske cars have been running well all year. We don't have the results that we need. The 2 cars running well, but we're making progress every week, and we're just happy about that.
If we go into overtime, do you have enough fuel for that situation?
All depends how many cautions we have left. I hope so, but we'll just see and play it by ear.
Dick Berggren?
With Steve Addington, Kurt Busch's crew chief. Hey, we're getting near the end of this thing. What do you think? You're going to be able to win it?
Well, I think our car's strong enough to win it. The 48 and the 16, those guys are really good, but I think that we're right there with them. I mean, our car's been pretty good from the start of the race, so I believe we got something for them. Maybe put this Miller Lite Dodge back in victory lane 2 weeks in a row.
All right, Steve.
With Chad Canals, and Chad, you guys have been working hard on that right front tire to save it. Are you in? You said this morning you want to be in the top 10. When you get close, you're there now.
Yeah, we're pretty pleased with the car. It's been pretty good all day long, and we did have some and have had some right front tire problems. We
kind of thought there might be some issues with that coming into the race, and unfortunately it came true. So we made some pretty significant changes to the low Chevrolet, and it's running pretty well. Obviously this rain makes your pit strategy a little iffy from time to time, but we're going to play it to the best of our ability, and hopefully we can be in a position to battle for the win. But if nothing else, when we get a top 10, we're going to be pleased.
Thank you, Chad. Good luck. Let's go back to Chris Myers.
All right, thanks, Steve. Jimmy Johnson, 49 career Cup wins. He's never won here at Bristol, and this is the last race with that wing before we go to the spoiler in Martinsville. And I bring that up because Jimmy Johnson, of course, he dominated in every category, but he won the most races, 21 races under that wing. And you heard his crew chief. You heard also Steve Addington talk about they're worth watching.
Well, the thing is right now, I'm not going to worry about that spoiler next week because we're really going to try to stay focused on what's happening here today. And as far as the 48 car and the rest of these teams are concerned, I don't care what you put Jimmy Johnson in and Chad Canals working on, they're going to make it get to victory lane eventually. So just be a matter of time for them boys getting back there. But I think his focus that they would like to be able to go out of this race and say that they won with this car in this configuration just for the personal pride of it. And they have run well today. But again, track position here late in this race and being in the right position may be two different things. When they drop this green flag, there's some guys up front we're not too sure about how good they're going to go. The battle to get up to the front could be what's going to be interesting, watching Kurt and him both trying to battle it through along with Greg Biffle.
Yeah, and you on the pre-race show, you predicted Jimmy Johnson to win this race. Darrell Waltrip
at least beat Darrell.
He went with Kurt Busch, which made it interesting. And now the weather, it may be a factor here. Yes. And the last three spring races here at Bristol, we've had overtime. In other words, the green-white checker finish. And now, of course, this year of the four previous races, we went into a second green-white checker, and we have an option of going as many as three. So you heard even the crew chiefs have to start thinking about weather, about fuel, and of course just a matter of having their drivers survive.
I'm just glad I'm not on top of the pit box right now because of that multiple green-white checkers. I think that's something that really throws you a curve that you really can't already really figure out what to do for sure, because the luck of the draw, the luck of the start. We saw a week ago when they dropped the green flag in Atlanta, or 2 weeks ago in Atlanta, one guy spun his tires and stacked everybody up in the outside line, and the inside line took off. So you just never know what's going to happen. And here at this short track, it's going to be 10 times worse because these guys are going to run over top of each other. They're not going fast enough to scare each other, so they're not going to be worried about running over each other.
We've already had a 13-car wreck. You talk about being thrown a curve. Beginning April 10th, America's Pastime returning to Fox with the best players, teams, and matchups every week. Begins with the World Series champion Yankees taking on the Rays or the Cardinals Brewers. Some will see Mariners Rangers. Fox Saturday Baseball returns April 10th. Note the special time of 3 Eastern, 12 Pacific, and 2:30 Eastern, 11:30 Pacific on Fox. Boy,
a modified racer.
you have to modify to hang in there with Bristol.
Bristol special.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox is presented by GoDaddy.com, where you can make the web your domain with a .com name for less than $1 a month. And sponsored by Subway Restaurants. Now, any regular footlong is just $5. Any. So hurry in. And by Sprint, proud sponsor of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series.
Here's the situation with 90 laps to go. We're ready to go back to green. The first 3 cars, Keselowski, Jeff Gordon, and Sadler, did not pit. Under this caution, green flag.
90 laps to go, 89. Ladies and gentlemen, let the wrecking begin.
Boy, Gordon got out of shape off turn 2. It's almost like he clipped the apron. Kurt Busch drives by him now. He goes after his teammate Keselowski.
Jeff Gordon wasn't very good, before this last caution. I'm not sure for some wrong with his car if he got in this accident down here or not.
2 of Roger Penske's cars side by side as they were in yesterday's nationwide race. Yesterday, young Justin Allgaier went to victory lane with Keselowski second. The veteran Busch and the Sprint Cup rookie Keselowski in the 12 in his very first Cup race at Bristol.
Here comes those 2 Hendrick cars, Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, with McMurray in that one not far behind.
I think if I were Keselowski, if I had a shot, I'd let the 2 get in front of me, because they're going to hold each other up and let these other 3 guys behind them catch up there and get in a race with them. I believe I'd let my teammate go right here. Give him some room, let him go.
Jimmy Johnson third, diving to the bottom for second.
I think that's the guy that the 2 car has got to worry about. Jimmy Johnson. They have made that car pretty solid, and with only about 85 laps to go here. He can lean on that right front all he wants to.
Well, Darrell, I think you said it earlier in the broadcast. We've seen cars run in the second groove. We've seen cars run in the third groove. But if you're going to prevail, you better be able to run it right there where that 48 car is at.
And now the first 2 cars to come off pit road with new tires are the first 2 cars in the race, Kurt Busch and Jimmy Johnson. Sadler, who started up there with the leaders, he's faded back, Larry, out of the top 10.
Yeah, you've got to have a good handling race car if you're going to stay up there. And I tell you, another guy that's come in there is that 77 car, Sam Hornish Jr. And just think about all the trials and tribulations that 18 car Kyle Busch has had, and he's sitting there now back inside the top 15.
Well, we're seeing a lot of guys that are surfacing right back into the kind of swing of things here because they made pit stops at the right time. Made the right adjustments.
Right with them, Kyle Busch. Now here's Carl Edwards working the 19 of Sadler, and then Hornish, Busch, Earnhardt, and Allmendinger. Kyle Busch is a different driver than he was a year ago when it was checkers or wreckers. He won the Nationwide Series championship in 2009, and I think he learned a lot about big picture racing. Not just about having a good points day, but taking what the car will give you and making the most of it. That's what he's done today.
I've seen him today on a number of occasions let out of the throttle and give a guy a break. Not so sure a year ago he would have been willing to do that.
Just since the restart, he has picked up 5 positions going after another, and he's on Sam Hornish Jr. now.
He's the leader of our Toyota top performers with Martin Truex and Brian Vickers also in the top 20 with 77 laps to go. Here's the battle for 4th. McMurray around Jeff Gordon. Here comes Biffle.
And we get a feeling, Darrell and I were talking about it during the commercial break, that Jeff Gordon maybe got a little more damage than anticipated when he was involved in that big wreck in turn 4 earlier with his teammate.
He got bumped
Boy, they
around.
were stacking up in, sorry about that, they were stacked up like cordwood in 3 and 4, and everybody kept it straight.
Conway, the 37, Larry, just trying to stay out of the way. And Menard almost ran over top of him, and now here comes the rest of the pack past him.
You just can't get out of the way here. I mean, you're going around here in 15.5 seconds.
Plenty of room to run, but nowhere to hide. Here's how that developed.
Allmendinger.
Yep.
Impatient. Got the 37 pushed up the hill. It's IBS.
And Menard.
It's IBS.
But it lasted almost for a whole lap. And what again is IBS?
That's irritable Bristol syndrome.
Okay.
Allmendinger's still at it. He's after Sadler, and he's trying to stay locked onto the back of Dale Jr. for 13th place.
And there you see Kevin Harvick in that 29 car, a lot like 2 weeks ago in Atlanta. They will not quit fighting till the very end as he's trying to make his way back inside the top 15.
You got to give those guys credit, Harvick and that bunch. They have not thrown in the towel near a time this year.
3rd place, McMurray, the Daytona 500 winner, in the number 1, working Keselowski. McMurray's tires are about 45 laps fresher than Brad's. We'll see some changes in the Sprint Cup standings as we head for Martinsville. There's how positions 1 through 5 would look, with Harvick falling out of the lead.
You know what, Mike, you talk about big picture racing. We got another points battle that's important when we leave here, and it actually involves that 12 car Brad Keselowski. We go to the current top 35 in owner points that'll be locked in going to Martinsville. Brad Keselowski came in here almost outside the top 35.
Mark Martin coming back in the race after repair. And he is 91 laps down, the last car running in 35th position.
Well, his car looks a lot better than Marcos Ambros's car. At least he's got a whole car.
That's true. Martinsville next week. The paperclip shaped half mile with its drag strip straightaways and oh so tight corners. And the most talked about hot dogs anywhere.
As these guys continue to go after it for third place, as we've got 66 laps to go, what's going to be interesting is our leader, Kurt Busch, who still has that 48 car back there lurking. There's about a dozen cars in front of them on the same straightaway now, so he's about to get into some heavy traffic.
Well, what I like about the 2 car, and I've liked it all day, is he seems to be able to, everybody wants to run a little higher than normal, I'd say. He's right around the bottom. That's going to pay off for him at the end of the race. There's nobody in his lane, in other words.
Ninth place, Carl Edwards, after a pretty lackluster day so far, has fought his way into the top 10.
Yeah, he started up in the top 10 when the race started. They fell back, and he was well outside the top 20. Felt like he had a pretty good car on the long runs, and I'm sure he'd like to see this thing go out the rest of the way under green.
That's what we heard on the radio there. He and Bob Osborne were talking. About the time the car comes in, there was a caution. They'd like to see this thing go to the end.
This battle right here just will not go away between these 2 guys for third, and now Greg Biffle in the 16's back there.
Can't give her much more room than you are.
Keselowski was almost up in no man's land, and that was a 12-car audio that we just heard.
Let him clip you and ruin both your days.
There you go. That's so great advice. Be smart.
And here's Kyle Busch. After a day that saw him hard into the turn 1 wall at one point, and at least 2 changes for tires that had just worn themselves out on the right front. Here's Busch trying to work his way into the top 10.
He can take a car that's been in the wall. I saw him do it with his truck at Daytona. He can just get so much out of a car that's wrecked.
Yeah, you just think about his whole weekend. He spun out almost the first lap on the racetrack on Friday, didn't hit anything. Got into a little deal with David Ruderman yesterday. They had to repair the right side, and I mean, look at that thing. Actually, it looks like it's just run 442 laps at Bristol.
Yeah, just don't look at the other side. What do you like to say here, Darrell? Time to let the rough side drag.
Oh yeah, that's getting down to it now. This is when your tongue's hanging out too, by the way. You've been fighting this thing all day. I don't care how good your car is. The G-forces here and just the effort it takes, the physical effort it takes, it wears on you.
Greg Biffle in the 16. Got Roush Fenway Ford gunning for 4th against Keselowski.
We've still got 22 cars on the lead lap now, as we've got 56 laps to go.
And for all the talk and all the video and all the internet bandwidth that's been used up in the last 2 weeks since Atlanta, look at Keselowski's car. Not a mark on it.
Just like yesterday in that Nationwide Series race when he ran second.
No, he's driven flawlessly yesterday and today. He respected his teammate yesterday, and today he's driven a great race. He needs to, though, Mike and Larry, we've talked about it. He needs to get up in the points a little bit, get a little cushion between him and 35th.
I think he gained the respect of some folks yesterday. It looked like he had a quicker car at the end of the race than Justin Allgaier, but big picture racing. 1-2 finish for Team Penske. Everything worked out for the best.
He respected his teammate yesterday. That was a nice gesture.
There's another Penske car on the right-hand side, Sam Hornish Jr. in that 77 car. That's a battle with Dale Earnhardt Jr. for the 12th spot.
Well, it might just be my imagination, but I believe that Mr. Addington has improved the quality of these Penske cars.
Across the board. Across the board.
Certainly has improved their finishes. Let's check on the leader. Kurt Busch coming up into traffic. 2 of the front row motorsports cars, Travis Kvapil and David Gilliland, just ahead. And he owns a 1-second lead on Jimmy Johnson right now.
There's Steve Addington. Last 2 years, he's won more races than anybody aside from Chad Knaus. Won 12 races over there with Kyle Busch. That 18 car was moved out of that position with about 3 or 4 races to go. But Dick Berggren looks like they're working on 2 wins in a row here today.
Well, they sure are. And Kurt has only said since the last pit stop, the car is close to perfect.
That's good news for Kurt.
Bad news for everybody else.
That's right. There's Jimmy Johnson about 1 second back.
But just watch Kurt, and this is the difference. I watched Jimmy Johnson Jimmy cannot get under people. Looks like the 77's falling off the pace.
We're told he's dropped a cylinder, Darrell.
Oh, kid, every time he gets close to having a great run or something always seems to happen to the thing.
Hornish was in 12th place.
Atlanta, he was running great, had some sort of ignition or engine problem.
There's Scott Speed, sporting a new hair color that can only be described as Superman comic book, black with blue highlights. And not sure if it's helped his performance, but he's in the top 20.
Well, and the thing about Scott Speed, you know, we talked about Paul Menard so much. Scott Speed's another one comes in here in the top 12 in points, 11. So we pretty much know he will go to Martinsville, and for the first time maybe ever, will not have to worry about qualifying and think about racing.
Yeah, he's running 19th right now, so another quality day, really.
Yeah, he's completed all but one lap of competition this year.
44 laps to go. The gap remains constant, about 3/4 of a second. Kurt Busch to Jimmy Johnson. Sprint brings you an inside look at what's happening now with 34 laps to go inside the Sprint Cup Series. Eyeballs glued to Fox and to NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile. Check out NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile at sprint.com/speed. 33 to go. Kurt Busch the leader and Jimmy Johnson lurking 0.8 of a second behind, within striking distance, but Busch is not the least bit under pressure.
I probably, like the guy driving the 2 car, am standing here wondering, has that 48 got anything left like he has so many times?
Because if that 2 car catches traffic just the wrong way and that 48 does, he'll be there.
Hey, buddy.
7th place. Now Matt Kenseth has passed Keselowski. Here comes Carl Edwards.
3 laps when you get here, 30.
You know, it's good for these 2 guys to run side by side and show each other some respect. That'll mend a lot of fences. That'll go a long way as we move on down the road here.
Carl can't get any lower on the track than he is, and Keselowski running the high groove, and a lot of daylight
even
between
with
them.
you on the bottom.
You know, the thing that I see right now, when I look at our top 5 or 6 cars, everybody is pretty much mirroring each other's speed as we're getting down now to almost 25 laps to go.
Yeah, those first 6 cars there are all within just a 1/10 or 2 of each other. Throw a blanket over them.
This 7th place race looks like Carl gets a good drive off the corner, but Brad in that high groove is more wound up. And this time Edwards prevails, takes over 7th place.
But I am so impressed with that 12 car, because we have to remember, everybody he's racing, he's got about 40 more laps on his tires than anybody.
Your leader is Kurt Busch. The gap back to Jimmy Johnson right there is 0.9 of a second. In 3rd, a great drive for Jamie McMurray, who said he was quite upset by the fumes from the jet dryer that dried the track twice here earlier. McMurray in 3rd, 3 seconds off the lead.
But when you think about McMurray, of course, it takes a lot. Boy, had Scott Speed in the 82 car, just got into the wall down in 3 and 4.
Right front's in. I don't know if it's down or not, but it's bowed in about a mile.
Yep, no caution. There's Jeff Burton, 5th behind Greg Biffle. Burton a past winner here, 5 seconds off the lead.
Boy, that's going to be the thing, Larry, and that's why I'm glad I'm not a crew chief. If there's a caution just you know, here in the next few laps, what do you do?
Yeah, because we got this restart on lap 411. That means if we go green, 90 laps on these tires.
6th for Matt Kenseth. 7th now, Carl Edwards, his teammate.
And when you're leading the race, there's probably no worse position to be in when those late cautions come out. Do I stay or do I go?
Right.
Well, it's kind of a no-brainer if you're one of the back cars on the lead lap, but up front, that's where it gets tough.
Tony Stewart in 8th. Started 11th today. Then Brad Keselowski and Kyle Busch. This is the race for 9th. And Keselowski last on pit road at lap 345. Keselowski beginning to fade just a bit, as Busch's tires are more than 40 laps newer. Here's what happened to Scott Speed.
You can see the dust and the smoke come out of that right front as she blew out, and he hit that wall a ton.
Joey Logano has hit the wall in the back straightaway coming off turn 2.
Another right front looks like. It's coming in on the right side this time, Larry.
Well, we're working on the longest green flag run we have had all day long. I actually just saw Montoya in the 42 car on pit road as well.
Well, piece of, well, I don't know what that is in the middle of the groove there, just flying around. Piece of rubber, I think, coming off turn 4.
Logano makes it to his pit. We stay under green with just 19 laps to go, and yellow flags out.
Yeah, got a piece of rubber here off of turn 4, and I'm not sure.
That's a brake duct hose.
Yes, piece of brake duct.
Kind of looks like the hose behind your clothes dryer.
Okay, Larry. I just wondered if this was going to happen or not. Now what?
I think we were highly anticipating this. We always get a late race caution here. I think you're going to see everybody hit pit road, Darrell. You may have 1 or 2 roll the dice, but I think you're going to have to hit pit road to get those 4 fresh tires, because nobody knows exactly what their right fronts look like right now.
Pit road is open. Let's see who the takers are. The leaders come in. The 39, Ryan Newman, gets the free pass. Here's Steve.
Mike, Jimmy Johnson says I'm good on the short run. They're going to get 4 tires. No other adjustments to that 48 for Jimmy Johnson. Dick.
Steve Addington had called for 2 tires. The driver, Kurt Busch, said 4 all the way around, so they quickly got the left side tires. Remember, this crew has been flawless today, but a 4-tire change is going to take some time. Matt.
And Carl Edwards' team up on the wall telling him to go on the jack. Go on the jack. They're looking to make possibly a chassis adjustment. Edwards into his pit box, comes to a stop. You can see Joe hears this. He already makes a chassis adjustment. Looks to be right side tires. He's away.
And he gets out in front of Kurt Busch. But it's the Biff at the front of the line with Matt Kenseth, then Edwards, Stewart, Busch, and Johnson.
And if you see right there, a lot of guys like Biffle, Kenseth, Edwards, Stewart, all going with just 2 right side tires, as we're going to restart probably with just a little over 10 laps to go.
The Vice Titans in Thunder Valley, Bristol, Tennessee, will be back for the restart.
All right, bud, nice job. We're going this time. Tug on them belts one more time. Push that wheel. Race hard, race smart. You know what to do.
3 wide. Still 3 wide. Outside, outside. Clear high. Oh, it's done. I'm just going to come to you so you can see how bad it is.
Ready for the final restart in Bristol, Tennessee. We hope it will be the final restart. And the question becomes, was 2 tires or 4 tires the right call? Darrell.
Well, with no more laps to go, 2 would have been a good call, I think. I could have lived with that with just a few laps to go. I don't know if you're going to have time to take advantage of those 4 tires or not.
Yeah, because we've got 4 cars up there that did it. The Roush-Keteers, Biffle, Edwards, and Kenseth, and you've got Tony Stewart. So that means that our 2 guys that's dominated this race, the 2-car Kurt Busch and Jimmy Johnson, the 48, they're going to start back there on the 3rd row. Remember, double file restart.
But the 2 best cars all day have 4 fresh tires. If you're in front of them, watch your mirrors carefully.
Bristol is only so wide, though.
Here's the problem. They're running out of time, baby.
The track is plenty wide and plenty of time. We're about to go for what we hope will be the final restart. 12 laps to go this time.
Pretty optimistic there, I might add.
Greg Biffle at the front has 14 Sprint Cup victories, but none on a short track in 43 such starts.
You know what we're going to find out here, Mike? How many cars wide can we race around here?
There's a couple of guys beating on their steering wheel right now, Kurt Busch as well as Jimmy Johnson, saying, let's get this race restarted, boys.
Yeah.
Today's aerial coverage brought to you by DirecTV. If you're a NASCAR fan, you might win $1 million. Go to directv.com/NASCAR. Make sure you tune in next week when we do our selection of the brackets for DirecTV head-to-head knockout.
You know who's wishing rain right now? Jack Roush. 1, 2, 3.
Jack has 3 of a kind at the front of the field. Is that a winning hand? 1 to go. There will be 10 laps to go in the Food City 500.
And as I look at that 17 and that 99, there's Jack Roush right there. Just remember, I said it early in the race, the 99 was not happy yesterday. They put the 17, mirrored the 17 setup this morning.
Remember, the 2 and the 48 in row 3 are the first cars with 4 fresh tires. The big question is, do they have enough laps to get back to the front?
Well, the 17's where he wants to be. He likes the bottom. The 16's where he wants to be. He likes the top. The problem's going to be for the 2 to get around all those 4 cars in front of him. Him or the 48 either one.
Well, it's Bristol, baby. Here we go. 10 laps to go. Green flag.
Great start by the 16, and the 17 didn't quite get going. Whoa.
The Edwards 99 stuck his nose in there. There comes Kurt Busch up on the outside of the 99 Carl Edwards.
Earnhardt tried the high side, but that was occupied by Busch.
Boy, look at that 48 car. We know he is good with new tires for a short lap, short run. This could be his cup of tea.
He's going to try to take it 3 wide off 2. He has to back out. Biffle and Stewart side by side.
Tony Stewart trying to win it from the bottom.
And where did Stewart come from? All of a sudden, he's got a shot.
Tony Stewart's working at bottom. Johnson's faster. He just can't get by him. There'll be 7 to go next time.
48 car is looking pretty daggum good right here.
7 to go.
If 48's got to get by the 16 if he's going to have any shot on it. There you go. Now he's got the 14 now. He'll drive right by him.
Kurt Busch moves up to 4th.
If he's going to pass him, he'll have to do it on the high side. Looks like he's going to do it.
He's got him. He got all the good breaks. He got by the 16 when he needed to.
Oh yeah, babe, bring it home. Clear. 5's going to be out of your way when he gets there.
Here comes Kurt Busch in that 2 car. He takes the 3rd spot away from Greg Biffle in the 16. 5 to go.
I think the 2 cars that took 4 cars are probably going to run 1st and 2nd, but took a little bit more time for Kurt to get through traffic than it did Jimmy.
If he wins, it'll leave only 3 tracks he's not won at, and he will tie Ned Jarrett and Junior Johnson on the all-time win list with 50.
Well, with the way he's gapping those other guys, I'd say he's probably in pretty good shape here.
3 to go. Kurt Busch working on that 14 car of Tony Stewart's now.
Kurt's a wee bit loose up off the corner. Hadn't been all day, but he's just driving so hard. He's really driving hard down in the corner, and it's hurting his exit.
Two to go. Jimmy Johnson made all the right moves, and it's Kurt Busch who is going to run out of time with the fresh tires.
Well, they said when the race started, get the champagne out.
And that's Earl Barbin, the same guy that wanted to stand by the lady with the blue feathers at Las Vegas.
Here he comes off of turn 4.
Checker flag. Jimmy Johnson scores his 50th career Sprint Cup win.
Great job, driver. Great job, buddy. Awesome work, everybody.
Yes, yes, yes!
Tony Stewart worked on that car all day and brought it home in 2nd place. Kurt Busch led the most laps by far, 278, more than half the race. Winds up 3rd. And the Roush cars, Greg Biffle, Carl Edwards, or Matt Kenseth, Carl Edwards, finished 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, those guys that changed 2 tires, it worked out great for them. 2nd, 5th, 6th, and 7th.
Don't overlook Junebug there either in 7th place. Nice run for him today. Up in the top 10. That'll help his points. Look out there, Jimmy. You're going to wreck that thing.
Jamie McMurray, 8th. Kyle Busch improved on a disastrous day for 9th. And Jeff Burton scored the only top 10 for Richard Childress with Harvick 11th for Boyer in the garage.
Good thing about Harvick with that 11th place finish. Look at here. He's just going to lay her against the wall and just let her eat. But Harvick keeps the points lead unofficially.
He's got 4 tires on it. You know, might as well use them up.
Didn't have to run but 10 laps with them.
Yeah.
Jimmy Johnson, the winner. We'll talk to him in victory lane in a moment. Johnson wins the Food City 500 on Fox.
Promotional considerations provided by
It took Jimmy Johnson 17 tries to conquer the half mile at Bristol. And look at this burnout. Up the ramp all the way into victory lane. He is smoking the hides even as he makes the turn.
Watch this. That's pretty cool.
Line him back up. Krista, 3 wins in 5 races in 10 short track wins in 49 starts. What a record for Jimmy Johnson.
Well, there are not many things that Jimmy Johnson has not done or has not won in a race car as he throws the Food City groceries out. 50 wins, 4 championships. They say some things are old hat. For you, Bristol is not old hat.
Oh, no, man, we have worked so hard for this. I thought we were in trouble there, but those 4 tires were everything, and I was in the outside lane, which was helpful. But, I'm thinking of all the times we had all the Lowe's executives here and we ran terrible and crashed on lap 3 and all that stuff. I wish they were all here now. I want to thank all the employee owners at Lowe's. They're great support. And if people want tough tools, head to Lowe's, buy some Cobalt tools. The fans for supporting us. The Chevrolet was awesome. About time, man. I'm so proud of this team. I'm so proud of us setting a mark and going at it and accomplishing what we wanted to.
Congratulations. Enjoy win number 50, the first for Jimmy Johnson at Bristol.
Well, we thought he was just lurking behind Kurt Busch for most of those last 100 laps, but it took a gutsy call and a couple of gutsy moves to get him the win.
The restart did it. I mean, he made all the right moves, went the right way, but I said at the end of the race here, and I'll say it one more time, best closer I've ever seen in the sport. You get him clear to the front, look out.
And again, I think the comeback of the day has to be Kyle Busch and that 18 group. You know, they never gave up. They've worked on that car, and they end up with a top 10 finish. And Kyle will actually leave here in the top 10 in points.
Jimmy Johnson, the winner in Bristol, first time in his career he goes to victory lane in Thunder Valley.
And as we check the points, Mike, 50 career wins. That ties Jimmy Johnson for 10th all time with Ned Jarrett and Junior Johnson. Look how close these points are. Kenseth's second, Jeff Hammond, and I guess taking the biggest tumble was probably Mark Martin, who fell back 9 spots.
Yeah, Clint Bowyer still hangs in that top 12, even though he had problems today. You see Mark all the way back there in 16th. Joey Logano, he slips back also. He's back there in 17th.
The pole sitter who had some problems, and interesting listening to Jimmy Johnson talking about his first win here at Bristol. It's about time. Here's a guy who's won four straight championships with the owner Rick Hendrick working on a 5th, and he's won 3 races this year already.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
Tony Stewart wound up 2nd. Matt Yoakum is with Tony.
And what a run to the finish. Tony Stewart scores his first top 5 finish of the season. How would you describe that short run of the checkers, Smoke?
Well, I mean, it's a 10-lap sprint to the end there. So, you know, we were too loose the run before that, and we couldn't get the track position. We lost there for a bit, and he left it up to me. So whether I made the right call or not, I don't know. But you know, Darian and these guys did an awesome job, and you know, we got the thing tightened up a little bit to where at the end we could charge. But it was hard. We struggled on restarts until once the track got a lot of. You know, once the track got rubbered in, it was pretty good, but we were terrible when there wasn't any rubber on the track.
Tony Stewart, 2nd in Thunder Valley.
Well, Kurt Busch led the most laps today, and had it not been for that 4-tire change, might have been victory lane.
Yeah, we were solid all day. We just got beat at the end on luck of the draw on restarts. That's what our sport's about. It's just random luck on which lane's going to go, but I don't know. I'd rather lose to any other 41 cars out there than this 48 car. I thought we had them beat. I gave it my heart today, but to come up short, it's all right. We did good at Bristol. I'm happy to have Steve Addington on my team. He's really making me believe the Busch brothers can't drive. It's all about Steve Addington. So great day for our Miller Lite Dodge. It's a shame we didn't bring it home for a victory. We're really good here at Bristol. We're not so good at Martinsville. So, hey, it's all right to finish 3rd.
A solid team effort. Congratulations.
His 270 laps plus led with Steve Addington as crew chief. That's the most ever in any race for Kurt Busch. And, you know, he talked about, you could see it in his eyes. He drove hard. He thought maybe he had the best car. Remember early on when Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus were talking about what Kurt Busch and the 2 car had, about how it was tight and they made an adjustment, almost trying to copy that or mirror that.
He was watching him from the racetrack side of it and trying to get back some information to Chad Knaus to maybe work on his race car. I think they made all the right adjustments. They've got it to where it's definitely better. But if you saw right there at the end, Chris, Steve Addington came over to Kurt Busch and let him know, look, I may have made the wrong call. You drove your heart out. You gave me 110%, and we came up a little bit short. But I think this is a great combination. We talked about it at Atlanta. I think they got on the same page. But, hey, the guys that are definitely on the same page. You see Mark Martin there talking to Jimmy Johnson. He got in trouble early today, but Jimmy, he kept his nose clean, and he and that young man right there, Chad Knaus, as Darrell Waltrip said, they're deal closers.
Not only do they worry about what they're doing, they watch what other people are doing and try to outdo them. You, of course, you many times, I know, apologized as a crew chief to Darrell Waltrip when you made mistakes as well.
He had his radio turned off. Not my fault.
All right, so in that 2-tire, 4-tire gamble, though, what was the difference, though? Because both Jimmy Johnson and Kurt Busch went with the 4 tires.
It was track position and the way that double file restart happened. I mean, the holes opened up for Jimmy Johnson. He got a great run on the outside. If Kurt Busch could have cleared and got in right behind Jimmy on the get-go, we may have seen a different finish there, but it didn't work out that way. And fortunately for Jimmy Johnson, Tony Stewart was good enough to keep Kurt Busch from getting to him.
Carl Edwards, Brad Keselowski, they were side by side throughout the race, and there were no problems, no issues. They must have got the message. The gloves were back on in a sense. We saw a 13-car wreck. We didn't see a lot of hot tempers, and usually you see that when you're in Bristol, no matter who it is.
Well, you don't know what's going on right now away from the TV cameras right now. Anything can happen. We're still got one more short track to go when we go to Martinsville next week.
Martinsville, a place that Jimmy Johnson has done very well. Well, that's not great news for everybody else. This is good news, though. Tonight on Fox, you'll be entertained by The Simpsons, The Cleveland Show, Family Guy, and Sons of Tucson. Next Sunday at noon Eastern, we'll be in Martinsville, the oldest and shortest track, and Jimmy Johnson has won 5 of the last 7 races there. And in fact, there's only 5 tracks now that he has not won on after conquering Bristol today.
Are we talking 5? I mean, he's number 6 in the points right now. Is this guy destined to win 5 championships? That's the key.
We're 5 races through. He can add Bristol to his hit list. Jimmy Johnson successful after the weather, toyed with some minor delays. But again, Kurt Busch trying to win back-to-back, led the most laps. Tony Stewart winding up second, and a good run for Greg Biffle. Matt Kenseth, Carl Edwards finishing 4th, 5th, and 6th. So Martinsville next week, the return of the spoiler. The rear wing flies away. For Jeff Hammond, I'm Chris Myers, our entire production crew, Ben Altop in the Hollywood Hotel, Patrick Perrin, our researcher. We hope you enjoyed NASCAR on Fox. Have a great week, and we hope you join us next Sunday again, noon Eastern from Martinsville, Virginia. Y'all take care. Thank you for watching.